Welcome back to Holy Plot. Once again, I am your host, Liam, here with Jacob and James. And let me tell you, this is going to be an absolute doozy. The past week has been insane for entertainment. So I'll give you a quick little preview of what we got on the docket, and then we'll get started. So we're going to start off with Wes Anderson's new movie, Asteroid City. After that, we're going to go through Starfield, maybe talk about Spider-Man, Sony. We'll get into the Nintendo Direct. We also wanted to talk about Tears of the Kingdom a little bit. We know it's old, so we'll try to take angles maybe that aren't talked about as much. After that, we're going to go into a general news segment, and make sure you stick around for that because, like I said, this week has been insane with writer strike news, Comic-Con news, just everything. So unless my co-hosts have anything they want to say before we get started.
Not really.
All right.
No, I'm good.
In that case, Asteroid City. So we tried to see Asteroid City the other week when we were talking about Flash and everything, and it did not work. Reason being was the movie was actually marketed for a long time to release on June 16th. But we made a reservation for what I at least thought was June 16th.
It said June 16th on the tickets.
It did say June 16th on the ticket. We drove to the theater, which was actually...
Out of state.
It was out of state. And we got there, and the ticketer was like, hey, man, this is for the 23rd. And what are you doing here? I was like, well, I'm here to see Asteroid City, but apparently not. So we...
Well, what I think happened was initially the movie was coming out on the 16th, and the weekend was so crowded that they instead changed the 16th to a limited release, which it only played in like 6 theaters, like in major cities in the United States, and it had the largest limited theater box office since La La Land. It made like...
Did it really?
$750K a theater.
Wow, that's considering the kind of movie it is and the time frame it was released. That's really, really good because it totally would have been buried.
Yeah, well, it kind of was.
Yeah. James, your thoughts?
So I kind of had a bit of a unique perspective going into this movie because I've only actually seen one Wes Anderson movie before this, which is Fantastic Mr. Fox. Honestly, as far as this movie goes, I feel like it was a lot of good setup. Like, it was fun, it was visually great, I was enjoying the characters, but by the end of it, it kind of just ended suddenly, and sometimes there can be a point to that, but for this, I think it was it told you what happened, and a whole sequence that I would have rather seen as a payoff to the whole movie.
Mm-hmm, so what would you give it out of 10?
I am leaning on a 6.
Well, I think for some crazy reason we are also in agreement.
Yeah, I'm sitting at a 6 as well.
I think Liam and I are kind of... Well, actually, Liam has seen all of Wes Anderson's movies.
Yeah, I've seen his entire filmography.
And then I'm like somewhere in the middle. I've seen like 6 or 7 of them. And I gotta say, I think this is my least favorite Wes Anderson movie I've seen.
So why don't you rattle off the ones you have seen, if you can remember them, just for
So
context.
I've seen Moonrise Kingdom, which I would give a 10. I've seen Grand Budapest Hotel, which is my favorite. I'd give that a 10. That's probably like my top 20 movies. I've seen Fantastic Mr. Fox, which is like a 9 or a 10. And then I have seen Isle of Dogs, which I'd give like a 7 or a 6. I just think it loses a little bit of its magic. And then Asteroid City is the last one I've seen, which I would say is my least favorite of the ones I've seen, which I'd give like a 6 at most.
So, like we said, I've seen all of his films now with Asteroid City. So let me pull up my list here. So I'll start from the top, my favorite, and I'll work my way down. So my favorite is Fantastic Mr. Fox, which is sitting at a 10. After that, I've got Life Aquatic, which is sitting at a 9. Grand Budapest, which is a 10, which is, I think Grand Budapest is a better film, but Life Aquatic, in my opinion, is viciously underrated.
It's more you, for sure.
It is definitely more me. So I like it a bit more. After that, I got Rushmore sitting at a see. I think it's a 9. Yeah, a 9. Then I have Moonrise Kingdom, another 9. Royal Tenenbaums, 8. Bottle Rocket, 8. Darjeeling, 7. Isle Dog, 6. Asteroid City, 6. And then my least favorite, French Dispatch, which I also have at a 6. So he doesn't really make bad movies.
No, this movie isn't bad.
But it was disappointing. I think we can get into it now.
Yeah, so for me, I don't expect Wes Anderson movies to be like a comedy or anything. But I feel like he is like the best at visual comedy. Like the two directors that are working today that stick out for me are Edgar Wright and Wes Anderson as far as like visual comedy goes. And it just didn't land in this movie. It never really like got me invested in the world and immersed like his other movies do, where I'm like kind of feel like a child for like 2 hours. This movie I was kind of bored.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't really get into it. And I think a big part of that, which Liam, I know you're passionate about, was the framing device.
Yeah, for sure.
So Wes Anderson movies typically have a framing device. In Grand Budapest, it's a girl reading a book about a story that is being told to our narrator, correct?
So in Grand Budapest, I think it starts off with a girl reading a book in like a graveyard or something.
Yeah.
And then the book is about a guy who went to a hotel who was told a story, and that story is Grand Budapest Hotel. The book might even be like totally fictional. I'm not super sure, but it's like a framing device within a framing device within a framing device, which is the same general shtick as Asteroid City, which is, in my opinion, to Asteroid City's detriment, which I guess we can get to, but
yeah, for sure.
Keep going.
I just feel like in his other movies, it's like natural and organic, but in this movie, he kind of kept stepping over it, and it kept tripping him up. And like the moment I would get invested, it would kind of pull me out of it. I do think the movie was getting to his point, which like James was saying earlier, but I think it stopped and decided to tell us instead of show us. So without spoiling anything, if you don't like that kind of show don't tell, portrayal of the world, you might be annoyed by this movie's ending.
Yeah, for sure. I think that was probably the scene James was talking about. I'm almost positive I know what scene he's talking about, but we can get to spoilers in a bit. But James, I'm curious, as sort of like a Wes Anderson newbie. People say that this movie, first of all, this movie is extremely divisive. I feel like a lot of like the film bro crowd really likes it.
Well, it's got a 67 amongst critics.
So it's
for
like
a Wes Anderson movie, that's like a Nintendo game getting a 67. You don't see that. That's crazy.
I mean, you kind of do. He's made movies like Darjeeling and Life Aquatic, actually, that haven't been like huge critical hits, but
it's been a while.
I think this movie, I don't know, the premise was so good. It's like a sleepy little desert road stop that has like a little green alien guy show up, and it's just, I don't know, it should have been a banger. Like Wes Anderson doing a fun little alien story should have been a banger, but he got so bogged down in Wes Anderson isms, which is what I want to ask you about, James, is speaking as a Wes Anderson virgin, so to speak, what is your take on the Wes Anderson isms in this movie compared to the ones you've seen?
Well, let's see. As a Wes Anderson version, I would have to say, from little snippets that I've seen over the years, and like I said, I've only seen one film, I kind of knew what I was getting into, at least a little bit, with like the tone, how he visually sets things up, the color, the atmosphere, and being relatively new to it, I was actually enjoying it. I like the whole Area 51 desert, satellites pointed up into the sky, UFO kind of atmosphere. It was fun to see such a unique spin on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't really have a lot of issues there where, some people might say it was getting trapped in what he does. I was into it. But going back to what you guys were saying, it was the framing device where once the initial appeal of, oh, look, it's Bryan Cranston wore off, I was like, this is taking me out. I would rather just treat these characters as real people
For sure.
and not like fake people within a movie where they're already fake. You know what I mean? Like a movie wants you to buy in.
Yeah, for sure. That was something I said when we got out of it, was every single time, for me anyway, like it felt like I was getting to know these characters, or I was getting invested in their story. I feel like immediately the movie would like pull me out and be like, hey dummy, you know, this isn't real. These are actors being actors in a movie about a play. No, a movie about a TV show that's about a play. And it just felt like it was forced, honestly. Like it was like purposeful immersion breaking, and the story that he was telling in the desert was compelling enough and more like what I'm looking for in a Wes Anderson movie enough that I felt really bogged down by the framing device. It just took me out of it, bottom line. And I think if we're comfortable in getting into spoilers here,
yeah, so we would give it like a 6.
Yeah, I think it's around 6 from Holy
And
Plot.
I think we should preface that Liam and I give multiple Wes Anderson films like a 10 out of 10.
Oh yeah, I love Wes Anderson. I mean,
he's like a top director for both of us.
Yeah, the reason that I'm like more critical about this one is because I know that the dude is like so capable of making these emotional, meticulously crafted worlds that you kind of get lost in. I think a great example of that is Moonrise Kingdom.
Oh yeah.
Where it's like it takes place on this little island, and you feel like you're almost like spending a summer on this island with these characters. Like imagine if Moonrise Kingdom, which also has like element of like there's like a play going on.
Mm-hmm.
They like Susie and the kid, the boy whose name I don't remember. They like get to their little hideaway, and then the movie hard cuts to like Bryan Cranston going, This scene was very popular with playgoers. You know, it's like, I don't know, man. I just kind of want to watch the movie. So anyway, Holy Pot gives it a 6 out of 10. Getting into spoilers and what James was talking about at the very beginning, the surprise appearance of Margot Robbie just quite literally telling the audience what the most emotional scene in the movie would have been.
I thought that was
a
unique way to go about it.
It was kind of a blunder, man. I feel like I would have just rather seen that scene.
So I think
no, Liam, you go.
like a consistent thing with this movie is that we like what it was trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
We get what it was trying to say, but we don't like how it said it. So James, what is your perspective on the end?
What's really funny about this now is that actually wasn't the scene I was talking about.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So with that scene with Margot Robbie, that was one of the times where I was like, I don't buy into this framing device, but it's a little neat. Like, it was kind of neat to see them do an unconventional thing with the Margot Robbie scene. But yeah, I mean, it was still tell and not show.
Yeah.
But actually, what I was talking about is when Jeffrey Wright's character is like, the quarantine will continue, and they freak out, and the movie pauses, and they're like, everybody freaked out. It was bad. Now let's get to the end of the movie. And I was like, the thing about the movie is that it is so conversational, it is so laid back, it's very quiet, and it makes you feel like it's just pulling back like a rubber band to snap. And there's another movie that does that and then pays it off, which is, I'm not going to beat the Film Bro allegations with this one, but Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's this very subdued, laid-back movie, and then at the very end they use that for this crazy explosive payoff that like makes the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of looking for the movie to do that here with the alien and everybody freaking out, and they're even having some stuff in the framing scenes that almost seems to tell you what's going to happen in Act 3 in a way where you anticipate it. And it was all building to something that I thought was going to be cool, and then it was like, no, we're not interested in saying that, which is fine. You can make that choice to be like, not interested in showing it, let's move on.
Yeah.
I just think the movie had built up something that would have been fun to see.
Yeah,
For
kind of
sure.
comedic.
I feel like there is a great Wes Anderson movie in here.
for sure.
And I'd
Which
be
is why it's
curious-
frustrating.
I'd be curious to like, if we were at the point where we were having guests on the show, I would love to bring in someone who like thought it was a 10 out of 10 and like hear their perspective. Because for me, it was just like, I don't know, man. We saw it with our friend who is a bigger Wes Anderson fan than I am.
He's his favorite director,
Yeah, and he also didn't like it.
which is his least favorite movie out of all of them.
Yeah,
He's
so
seen all of them too.
I don't know if we're just like a pack of haters, but I don't know. 'Cause there were scenes that I really loved. Like, I think my favorite scene was when the alien first arrived and like the whole set was lit up green and everyone was like looking up from under their like eclipse viewing boxes or whatever they were.
Yeah.
Like there was some good shit in there, but the main problem I had was the framing device, which I think, ironically enough, most of what Wes was trying to say was probably contained in the framing device.
For sure.
We can get into your take on it, Jacob, in a bit here, but I feel like it was at the expense of the story, which I mean, it's kind of whatever, because one could argue that the story is the play, but I connected more to the story of the actual happenings in the desert than the play around it, and that might just be me. Again, people love this movie.
My problem with the movie is I just didn't really care about any of the characters. Like, in his other films, like, I fall in love with the characters like Zero, and you talked about Moonrise Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, fantastic Mr. Fox. But in this movie, like you said earlier, the movie was like constantly reminding you that these characters aren't real. So it's like, if the movie's telling me not to care about the characters, like, okay, like, fine, like,
Yeah, all right, dude.
I think I get what he was trying to go at,
Yeah,
and
it was definitely ambitious.
yeah, my perspective on this film is that it's like Wes Anderson's, it's like a little autobiographical, and it's about Wes Anderson's experiences through COVID as a creative in the entertainment industry.
Mm-hmm.
I think the alien and the experiences of the town are absolutely a metaphor for COVID.
There was like a lot of like quarantine talk.
Yeah, there's a lot of quarantine talk. People were getting in denial of it. I think Maya Hawke's character was meant to touch on like virtual schooling and like how the kids were like, she was teaching them about the planets and they're like, what about the alien? And it was kind of like when everyone was in school and they were trying to make me do a math equation. I'm like, what about the pandemic? There was like the relationship between Jason Schwartzman and Scarlett Johansson, which you said kind of reminded you of like a COVID fling, which kind of dies out once everyone got their freedom back.
Yeah, it's like we're all stuck in our houses and we're like, even when they were like talking just through the windows, like when they connected, they were like each in their house, like
At a distance.
At a distance. Like we only saw like hints, or it was implied that they like got together outside, but the scenes we saw of them really connecting were in their houses. And then when the quarantine was lifted, like he wakes up and she's just like gone. So I think that was probably saying something.
Like when they prematurely lifted the quarantine, like everyone was trying to kill each other, which I think was like some social commentary.
Yeah.
So I get what he was trying to do, and I think I liked that part of the movie, but I think he was kind of struggling to balance all of his goals, which I think were competing with each other for screen time.
Yeah. I would agree with that. James?
I think the thing for me, because I was picking up on that, but I kind of quickly threw it away as soon as I picked it up. And the reason why is because with talking about COVID and like movies or TV, I think the thing for me, at least in this like immediate, it's recent memory for everybody, I'm kind of looking for more than something that is talking about what it was like, because we were all there.
Yeah, I don't need to be reminded about what quarantine was like.
I mean, I think there was a lot of movies that have come out recently that have like dealt with COVID, like Glass Onion and The Menu, that like COVID supplies context for the movie, but it's not like distracting.
That's what I was going to say, is it's like COVID to me has to be a piece. Like Glass Onion, was really talking about like classism and the elite, and COVID was a brief part of that, where it's like, look at how these things don't even affect them, or how they don't care or don't grasp it.
Mm-hmm.
And for that movie, COVID was just kind of like a tool. And I mean, you can have something that completely centers on COVID, and it's a bit of a out of left field example, maybe not really, but Bo Burnham's Inside is like a perfect example of something that is completely talking about COVID,
Mm-hmm.
but it did so in a way that was fun. But if all of your piece speaks to is this is what it was like to go through COVID, for the time being, it's like, yeah, I was there. I felt all the emotional intimacy of it, as many did because we went through it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you got to say something more than what it was like.
Yeah, I think the whole concept of just saying something a little bit more, and I think the angle that Anderson was trying to take that at is specifically like what it was like to be a creative. His experiences, like the playwright in the movie, I forgot his name, played by
Edward Norton.
Edward Norton, has that like burnout, creative bankruptcy. I think that was kind of Wes Anderson, like talking to the audience about what he experienced. I think that was the angle he was trying to take it at. But once again, I just think he had too much going on in this film,
Mm-hmm.
to where it was just he was trying to say everything but ended up saying nothing because of it.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, I think I'd still probably recommend it. I mean, if you
Yeah, for sure.
if you like Wes Anderson stuff, it's not like a nothing burger. Like there's good stuff there. And like we said, like it is extremely divisive. You could go in there and think it's a 10 out of 10 and see an angle that we just missed. But
And one thing, like, if you disagree with us, please let us know.
yeah, I mean, comment section, whatever, Instagram DMs.
Because this is one of those movies that I do think is going to be very divisive. I think it will also yield itself to multiple watches.
For sure.
So my initial impressions of it aren't too hot, but I feel like depending on the person or when you're watching it, it could be better.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's the kind of movie that could grow on you. I think it would definitely benefit from multiple rewatches. Wes Anderson, he's not like a thoughtless creative.
Not at all.
Even when his stuff doesn't like resonate with me, like you can still see that like he's definitely going for something here, and that's it's valid. So he makes the movies he wants to make. I respect him for trying something new. I wish he would maybe pull away from the framing device within a framing device that he's done. I mean, he did the same, not exactly the same thing, but French Dispatch, which I also didn't really like, was very like framed and vignette-y. Anyway, unless anyone else has anything to say about Asteroid City, I think we can close it on a would recommend 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I do think Wes Anderson, like James and I talked about it, he's going through, like, the directors are like boxers analogy, which I'm going to sound like such a film bro here, but Tarantino talks about how directors have a lifespan of like a boxer, and how the more times they get in the ring, the rustier they get. So I really hope that his next film is completely different.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't just mean, like, Wes Anderson at a different angle. I want, like, something that's, like, not similar at all to anything he's done. And I think that would be a very interesting thing to watch, because I feel like he's kind of making the same movie. At least it feels like that to me.
Yeah, I can see some. I would totally agree. Yeah, I feel like we're getting to the stage where he is so creative and has such a defined style that he's like trapping himself in it.
Yeah.
So I couldn't agree more. I want to see him do new stuff.
I want it to be completely different. And I think that will be like the breath of fresh air that he desperately needs.
We'll see. Time will tell. James, anything to add?
I think the jump that you're talking about, it very much reminds me of how I felt coming out of Tenet. And now I feel like we're about to see Chris Nolan do the exact same thing. Like, Oppenheimer looks like the blow the lid off of a Chris Nolan movie. Haha, explosion.
Looks like the practical nuke to blow the lid off of Chris Nolan.
It's kind of what I wanted when I thought that that he was also kind of getting trapped in his own tropes. He's doing something that he's passionate about that invigorates him, that makes him want to push all the technical stuff. So this is only my first movie. I'm not going into it, seeing how Wes Anderson's progressing.
Mm-hmm.
All I can say is,
It's a cool
relatively new to him, I like the style. It did pull me in before it intentionally kept pulling me out.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to watch a new movie from him that maybe lets you actually get into the movie and not like maybe fights to also have the framework take up space in the movie.
I got good news. Those exist, so go watch them.
Yeah, they're out.
I'll go watch them, yeah.
You've got nowhere to go but up.
Yeah,
all right.
go watch those movies. They're
Alrighty.
better.
Well,
That's enough Wes Anderson.
that is enough
That's it.
Asteroid City, I think, because we have a lot to get to.
Yeah, so this was kind of a light weekend for film, which is nice because last weekend was kind of an onslaught, which we're going to talk about a little bit later.
Yeah, we'll get to that in news. But I think the meat of this episode is going to be what is going on in the gaming industry.
Yeah, so right now is kind of like E3 season, which is kind of what people are starting to classify it as. It's like E3 is dead. Not just this year, but the Los Angeles Convention Department, whatever it's called, posted their plans for the conventions for the next 2 years, and in the little bottom corner it says cancellation for E3 in 2024 and 2025 is included in these statistics.
Mhm.
So E3 is dead. Unless it comes back in 2026, we'll see. But E3
Don't hold your breath.
E3 is
The
dead.
comeback.
So right now we're kind of living in this era of these Nintendo Direct like events from all of these companies. Nintendo was really ahead of the curve on that, which is
I
funny.
like, by the way, because
Yeah.
I feel like we get more like focused content. Like I don't.
It's not showmanship.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like something like the Starfield Direct, which I think is next on our docket. It was able to do more than it would have if it was at a live show, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I like it. There's no cringy hosts. There's no waiting an hour and a half between trailers.
For sure.
It's
miss
just
E3
let's
cringe,
get to it.
E3 cringe, there's a place in my heart for E3 cringe.
I
I
miss
feel
E3
just like a
cringe.
purple Pikmin.
Yeah, I miss E3 cringe.
My body is ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. You miss out on some of those moments, but at the
Hey,
end of the
gamers.
day,
Yeah.
we're there to see the games, and if this is a better way to see the games, so be it. So, Starfield.
Oh man.
How about you lead us off, Jacob?
So I think all three of us are in a similar spot with Bethesda. James and I don't think I've ever mentioned this. James is my brother. We
Yeah.
grew up playing Skyrim. I played the game like 10 times, and that was like the first game I like fell in love with. I've played like Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas. I'm not a big Fallout 4 fan. I know it's kind of controversial.
I like Fallout 4.
It's all right.
Yeah, it's just alright. It's not a bad game. It's like a 7 out of 10.
It's pretty good. It's
The
underrated.
point is that all three of us grew up in Bethesda. Liam, I think you're more of a Fallout guy.
I'm playing through Skyrim for the first time right now, actually, at the
That's
behest
crazy.
of Jacob. But I grew up on Fallout.
So, we all grew up on Bethesda, and then a game called Fallout 76 came out.
Ugh.
And I think it all has kind of left us in a similar spot. I know it's a broken record to talk about 76, but the question I have for you guys is, with the impression that 76 left on you guys, do you have faith in Starfield?
All right, to answer that question, let me paint you a portrait.
Yeah.
So, when I was growing up, I grew up in Chicago, and my mom was like very, very anti-gun, violent game. Like I wasn't allowed to do any of it. So one of my first like grown-up games was Fallout New Vegas,
Peak.
and dude, it blew my mind. Like it was like one of the first times I'd ever like shot a gun in a video game was in Fallout New Vegas. So ever since then, I was completely hooked on the series. So I played through that. It's one of my favorite games of all time, 10 out of 10,
Agreed.
NCR and proud. Then I played through Fallout 3, and I liked it. I feel like I probably like Fallout 3 less than most people, but I still really like it. Then I played Fallout Fallout 4, dang. And I feel like I like that more than most people, but whatever. But long story short, I was extremely excited for Fallout 76. Like, I followed all of the development. I watched the presentation of it. I was one of the annoying kids screaming country roads. Like, that was me. It was so me that in my room right now, I have a $200 power armor helmet and a shitty nylon bag.
Oh God.
Yeah,
the nylon bag.
I have the bag. I didn't get a canvas one. Like, I didn't lobby for it, so my information didn't get leaked, luckily. But, dude, I was on the train. I played it for, like, one session, maybe, like, 4 hours, and I have not touched it since. And it put such, like, a nasty taste in my mouth. Like, I didn't really touch Fallout after that. Like, I felt, like, betrayed. Like, I was so excited for this. I got marketed to so hard. So now with Starfield, listen, if they deliver on everything they promised in that direct, this is going to be like Game of the Generation. But it's Todd Howard saying it, and Todd Howard is a known evil liar. So I want it to be good so bad. Bethesda needs a W, maybe more than any other video game company.
Bethesda and Xbox need a win.
Yeah, dude.
With the acquisition, like, this is Xbox's big release. Like, if Starfield is another Fallout 76, Xbox is in. Bethesda and Xbox are so deep in the shitter, it's not even funny. It's such a big deal. It's such a big deal.
There's a lot riding on this game.
I would argue that it can't even be like launch No Man's Sky. Like, it needs to deliver in a good state. But I also guess I have a picture to paint.
Oh God.
So I won't go too crazy here, but for me it started with Skyrim. What else is there to say?
5 times.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Yeah, Jacob could even tell you, I love Skyrim. I was playing Skyrim probably up until they dropped that anniversary edition with the fishing, and I said I can't support this anymore.
I have yelled at James to play like numerous games, one of which we're going to talk about later, and he'll be like, "Oh, I'm going to play it," and then I find out a week later he's like halfway into Skyrim again.
Yeah, he'd catch me. He'd be like, "No, you said you'd quit," and I'm like, "I will." But after that, I moved into Fallout. I actually started with 4. I enjoyed 4 at the time. After going back and playing the other games, I see some of the tone and creativity that's not present in 4.
Mm-hmm.
But then I played New Vegas. I was like, wow, this is great. This is fun. Played 3. Even had a buddy of mine push me to start playing 1 and 2. I haven't picked it up for a while.
Yeah, you played. I remember you were playing Fallout too.
They're really good, but they're kind of hard to get into in like a modern lens.
But I think the thing for me is that back in good old 2017, when they dropped all of these trailers, Elder Scrolls 6, Fallout 76, and Starfield, it was like, here we go. It's phase 2. And here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are. A console generation later or whatever. After how bad 76 has been, I've wanted to be hopeful about Starfield, but I've been like, dang, if I get burned, that's going to be a nasty burn.
And then after that, like, you got to think about Elder Scrolls 6. Like, if they biff Fallout 76, which they did, and I know people are like, oh, it's better now. Whatever, man.
Yeah, no.
Like, holy plot, fun fact. We're going to evaluate a game based on how it's released.
Yeah. Even something like No Man's Sky, like, if it's still, like, I'm not going to, like, sing the game's praises because it's a complete game, like, 5 years later.
I'm a chronic Destiny player. That game and Destiny 2 released in dog shit conditions, and I would not blame anyone for being burned from that and not picking it up, even though it's a good game.
I was worried about that with Starfield because when they dropped that first trailer where it was like they go to a moon base, I was like, oh no. I was like, this enemy AI, the gunplay, the world doesn't seem intriguing. The direct got me more on board than I ever thought it could after.
For sure.
Me too, yeah. I was going in wanting to, like, hate it.
Yeah, so I sat down and Liam and forced him to watch it.
Yeah,
Like
I
some
didn't want to watch it.
like Clockwork Orange, and
Listen, man, I drank the Fallout 76 Kool-Aid as hard as you can physically drink it. I can't stress it enough, dude. I bought the Power Armor edition. I am one of the fools born every minute. So I feel like I've probably been burned the worst.
yeah, I never really had high hopes for 76.
I was very excited.
Still
So
bought it.
I like
Still
that
feel wrong.
trailer.
I'm gonna believe Starfield when I see it. I am not buying it
Exactly.
until there are multiple trusted reviewers.
Well,
That's fair.
Ooh.
'Cause
we might need to review it, so that might not happen.
You might need to review
Todd-
it. Also,
Todd is
pray for
saying
the
some of the
PC
things.
port.
Yeah, so let's focus on the direct. So you kind of know our Bethesda backstory now, and our thoughts going into this. So this is like exactly what they needed to do. This 45 minutes, Todd Howard not pontificating over the entire thing.
Yeah, there was not a ton of Todd Howard.
And that's absolutely on purpose, because they know how people feel about him. He knows how people feel about him.
Except, you see that moon? You can go to that
Yeah.
moon. It's the
Yeah.
same shit, man.
Yeah, so when we were first watching it, and he's like, "You see that moon? That's not a skybox." We thought of,
See that mountain?
You see that mountain?
You can climb that
Climb it,
mountain.
and you can't.
No,
So-
he said that. I was like, oh, Todd.
Yeah.
The
So
more
it's-
things change.
No misgivings. It is still Bethesda. And I think we should level expectations a little bit, because we know what they can do, both good and bad.
Mm-hmm. When they're good, they're great. And Starfield looks, keyword looks, fantastic.
Yes, this game is what everyone wants a space game to be. There's shipbuilding, there's base building, which I'm like a massive builder in video games, so I'm excited for that.
They've got like a Blade Runner city and like a cowboy
Dude.
town. It's so cool.
Yeah,
It has the
there's-
contrast and tone between the settlements that I was hoping for, because
For
everything
sure.
they were showing off felt so samey. So when they were showing like the Ranger planet, I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, I'm to that point. I'm really surprised by the angle that this game is taking,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like post Earth. So I remember hearing that they're inspired by Interstellar, which now that we've seen like the game, I totally get that, because it's like you see the Gateway Arch and like St. Louis is like on Mesa, and it's all about like everyone kind of going off in like a Blade Runner alien type of way to like outward colonies. So it's still like the humanity that we know, but they've really branched out. So I did not expect that. I thought it was going to be more Star Wars, but
Which is good.
which
for
is
sure.
good. Thank
Yeah.
God.
Grounded. No Man's Sky is probably the thing that's easiest to compare to this, and there's a ton of No Man's Sky
Oh man.
DNA in it. Like when he whipped out the little mining laser tool, I
Yeah, it's
cracked
the
up.
No Man's Sky thing.
Yeah, which that game is better. I played it since watching the direct. And it's a fun game now, but it's not that I don't want Starfield to release in a broken state. Obviously I don't. Bethesda and Xbox cannot afford Starfield to release like No Man's Sky did, because if it's another disaster, then that throws Elder Scrolls 6 into question. It throws everything into question, that both companies, because Xbox has been lagging in the exclusive game for years, since like early Halo, basically.
Yeah, I mean because now they have a lot of games on PC, so the word exclusive is a little hard to use with Xbox, which I do think is pro-consumer.
They are outright admitting that they have lost the console war.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about it a little later, but yeah, thank you. You beat me to it. They've outright admitted that they're in last place, which
They definitely are, yeah.
I think they're trying to win a lawsuit, but they're not wrong. They desperately need to catch up, and to hear the most diehard PlayStation fanboys jealous of a video game on Xbox is what the market needs.
It's surreal.
Because we have not had that since Halo Reach. Legitimately, it has been that long. Because Halo 4, I like. Halo 5 is garbage. And Halo Infinite, we know. So they have not had a big AAA IP that has given people big impressions. Now, Xbox has been doing wonders on like the AA indie side, like Hi-Fi Rush and
I think they're doing Silksong now.
they're investing in it.
Yeah.
Obsidian makes some great games for Xbox, so they're doing a lot, but this is what they need for sure.
Yeah, for sure. The main thing about Starfield, it's a huge if.
Yes.
Everything about it is an if. So.
Yeah, it's like the number one thing I hear people saying, other developers in the industry, is this is impossible. How are they doing this? And like you can hear that two ways. One way is like, oh my god, Bethesda are defying the impossible. The way the skeptical side of me hears it.
There's just no way.
The skeptical side of me hears it as this is legitimately impossible, and we're being lied to a little bit.
Well, here's the thing.
But I want to be wrong.
Here's the thing. You can already see the marketing is a little goofy, because like Todd Howard said, he said there are 1,000 planets in this game, and then it's come out since
100 that have life.
Yeah, 100 that have life. So it's like 99% of it. It's just like a blue. This one's a blue rock. This one's a purple rock. Which like, yeah, space is actually like that. Fine, but it's like this is like a video game. So honestly, 100 planets having life on it.
It's pretty impressive.
It's still pretty impressive, but it's like marketing talk where they're touting it as like infinite freedom. 1,000 planets. Like, yeah, there's 1,000 planets, but the 99% of them aren't worth anything. So
here's the thing where I'm going to bring back in Fallout. And, there are a lot of games right now that know how to use the space in between points very well.
Mm-hmm.
Fallout has been good with that. The way it mixes music with the things you see in the distance with some random encounters throughout. It really made it work. It made it to where when you got somewhere, it felt impactful. Skyrim did the same.
Mm-hmm.
And a more modern example that's not Bethesda, you can even talk about Breath of the Wild. I mean, we're going to talk more about Zelda later, but one of the whole points of those games, I mean, like listen to the title, Breath of the Wild, the openness.
Yeah,
Breath of the Wild.
And with Starfield, we can talk as much as we want to about the ship customization, the factions, the character creation. It's going to live or die by how enjoyable it makes the space in between.
Definitely.
Encounters with spaceships, random stuff we don't anticipate. If the mining system is fun, making settlements.
Yeah, it can have the coolest factions in the world, but like if there's nothing to do, there's nothing to do.
I am not worried about that. This game seems like there is an overwhelming amount to do.
Yeah, and Skyrim has that.
For sure. Yeah, Skyrim, to this day, is like the only game where I feel like it's like brimming with stuff to do. Like
I still find new stuff in Skyrim if I ever pick it back up.
What do you say?
I'll still find new stuff in Skyrim if I pick it back up.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, without a doubt.
That's what separates Skyrim from Fallout 4.
Yeah, Fallout 4 is a good game, but I want this game to be more like I want it to play the strengths of both. And I think they know what they're doing. I think they're going to.
They better, man, because like this is potentially like the biggest game like sell ever, where it's like
it's massive.
We're giving you like a whole universe to fuck around in, and it's not like No Man's Sky where it's like you can go to these planets and talk to some ghouls in a space station, and there's like you'll find like a funny procedurally generated critter every once in a while. Like, no, this is, and they said this in the direct, like this is a Bethesda game through and through. That means there's factions, there are branching paths to take, there are the RPG elements that make something like Fallout or Skyrim so special, and you put that in, a galaxy, like a real simulated 1,000-planet quote-unquote galaxy. So if they pull it off, again, it's a huge if they pull it off, we're probably looking at Game of the Year. If they don't, we are looking at the biggest cluster maybe ever.
That's giving Cyberpunk a run for its money.
Yeah, like
and
it's basically they're selling it as like we're putting the detail of like what was promised in Cyberpunk's marketing in No Man's Sky, which are two giant games
That
that
fucked up.
totally biffed it. So it's like with our powers combined, we can make the ultimate
Hey,
shit sandwich.
It's a double negative. It's a double negative. That
That's
makes it
true.
positive.
That's true.
One thing that gives me hope for this game is they are clearly listening to the feedback from Fallout 4.
Mm-hmm.
There are multiple times in the direct where they stop and they pause and they say, yes, we heard you from Fallout 4. Here's a new system that fixes that. They don't do it directly, but like an example.
Settlement
building.
Yeah.
So I mentioned earlier how I love building in video games, and I cannot stand in Fallout 4 how you're limited to a first-person point of view. It's kind of janky, and Fallout 4 has a pretty ambitious settlement system. So for Starfield, I'm glad that it takes you out of that. You kind of get to go in like creative mode a little bit, and that's a direct feedback answered. Another aspect of that is people love Far Harbor in Fallout 4. It's my
Far
favorite.
Harbor was great.
It's the game that should have been. And the lead quest designer for Far Harbor is the lead quest designer for this entire game.
Oh, I
that's
didn't know
incredible.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
that. Okay. See, I'm hearing things that make me sound like this is going to be game of the generation, and then I think about it. I'm like, Todd Howard's trying to sell me this.
Todd. Yeah, I know.
So,
You'll get excited and then you hear his voice.
yeah.
And we're not like the Todd Howard hate club.
No, I'm just $200 lighter because I believed Todd Howard when I was an impressionable youth.
Yeah.
So
Honestly, it's just been the amount of time it's been for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we've been waiting for a while.
Yeah.
So, fingers crossed. I'm actually underselling. Like, I love Bethesda games, it's just been so long, it almost feels past tense. They've been out of the scene for so long now.
Yeah, I mean, they used to have their own E3 conference.
I remember, yeah.
And I mean, Bethesda's done stuff, not BGS, but Bethesda as a publisher have done stuff since Fallout 4. We've had Doom and Doom Eternal, and we've had Deathloop and Redfall.
But that you got to remember that Bethesda is also a publisher. So the same people who are working on Starfield are not the same who are working on those other games. So.
Yeah, so BGS has been out of the picture, but we still had Bethesda over the past few years. And they need it too. Because Redfall, I wish we had this podcast up and running when that game came out.
I said the fucked up thing is that's not even the shittiest thing that's come out this year anymore. Gollum, yeah.
Gollum.
Like, also, for Spoken, is that what it's
Redfall
called?
is worse than Forspoken.
It's like a trifecta of bad shit. But in the interest of time, I think we are probably good to cut Starfield here. If you guys are?
Yeah,
I'm good.
I think so.
All right, well, to sum it up then, we are excited, but have never been more cautious about a video game, maybe ever. If it's everything it's cracked up to be, I'm going to buy a next-gen Xbox. If it's not, I'm not. So.
Well, one last thing is that I'm a PC player, and if you haven't noticed, there's been this trend recently with PC ports. The first one that sticks out to me, which is unfortunate because I'm such a big fan, is The Last of Us Part 1. Finally got ported to PC. It is probably my favorite game ever. We're going to talk about that later. And it was horrific. It was one of the worst PC ports. It's like Arkham Knight levels. Actually, I think it's by the same company that did the Arkham Knight PC port, which, if you don't remember, got recalled, and they took it off Steam.
Yeah.
So then you had Jedi Survivor, and there's been a couple other games that have had these horrific PC ports. And Starfield has an undeniable stench of having a PC port like those games.
I mean, if they can't get Jedi
Survivor,
which probably has like 5 planets, I don't know, I haven't played it.
It's like God of War. It's kind of like Mario Odyssey. It's got like, it's called Open Zone.
Well, my point is,
it's not a galaxy.
PC port blows, and it's not a galaxy. So putting 1,000 planets in a PC port that's designed specifically for next-gen consoles, I doubt it.
Well,
I
it's
doubt
fun.
it. Take
This
it.
game
because
is designed only for Xbox. So the reason why I bring up my concern with
okay.
PC port is because if you're designing a game only for Xbox, it's gonna be similar to The Last of Us if I was to predict anything, which is concerning because I'm gonna be reviewing it on PC. So you guys will get that perspective in September.
But hey, if it's good, you'll get the Xbox perspective. So
Yeah.
stay
funny
tuned.
'cause
James,
I was-
anything to add before we move on?
Just that it's interesting that we are briefly talking about the whole PC port thing, because I was going to maybe see about, I want to have a PC, should I time it for Starfield? And it sounds like that may not be a good idea
Well,
with this PC
It all
port situation.
depends. It all depends.
And we're gonna wrap up the discussion because we desperately need to move on. But the reason why I want to play Starfield on PC so bad is because of the mod support. It's not coming at launch, but it is confirmed. This game is a modder's paradise. I cannot think of a game that modders can have more fun in than Starfield. Because you have those empty planets, which are just sandboxes for modders to dick around.
Sure.
You're going to have Star Wars mods, Star Trek mods, Interstellar mods. Blade Runner. Alien.
Definitely Alien. That's going to be awesome.
It's...
If it works. It just works.
Well,
It just works.
I wish they had mod support at launch because they could just fix the game for them, but they don't.
Well, in any event, stay tuned because when it comes out, we are going to talk about it.
Yes. September, there's not many movies coming out, so you might have a Starfield month.
If the game is that big, we'll have no shortage.
It'll
of
be a
stuff to
Starfield
talk
month
about.
for me regardless.
So, moving on then, before we get into Nintendo, which there's a lot to talk about with Nintendo, just quick thoughts on Spider-Man 2.
So, I think you're kind of the Nintendo guy. So I'll let you have your moment with Nintendo. But I'm a PlayStation console guy. James, you are too.
Yeah.
We both have PS5s. I think we should briefly touch on some Spider-Man things that we've talked about in the past. But my honest impressions about this whole PlayStation presentation were pretty underwhelming.
Xbox definitely won.
Xbox, like, I'm not an Xbox guy. In my youthful, more naive moments, I have been a hater of Xbox. They fucking destroyed them, and it wasn't even close. And it legitimately might have been the best presentation, period, ever.
I mean, it sold me on Starfield. It really did. I wouldn't say sold. It made me excited for it.
We're
that's just one part
contemplating
of the
getting
presentation.
Xboxes.
What do you say?
I said we're contemplating getting an Xbox for some of these games.
Yeah, for
That
sure.
is what they
I mean,
need.
It did its job so well that now, if their flagship game is good enough, I'm going to buy their console.
I don't think Sony did that.
No, they did not. Spider-Man looks
Great.
really fun. Venom. We love Venom.
Yes. So,
but I'm not going to buy a PS5 to play Spider-Man 2. I'll put it like that.
yeah, I'm excited for the game. Craven is, like, my most... I think he's like, oh, God, we got to talk about that.
There's some Craven stuff to talk about in the news section. Stay tuned.
So,
Craven Direct.
Craven is, like, my favorite underrated Spider-Man villain. I love him. I'm so glad he's finally getting a game. Venom by Tony Todd. That's perfect.
It's great casting.
But it just... The presentation as a whole was not what they needed at all, in my opinion.
Sony or Spider-Man?
Just Sony, period. Like, there was some cool stuff, like Bungie announced Marathon, which is like a massive deep cut. It was Bungie's first game before Halo. It's a lot like Quake and of the original Doom. It's like an arena shooter. There was the Final Shape announcement. There was like a couple new like project announcements without much detail, and Spider-Man, and that's kind of underwhelming, you know.
Compared to Xbox and even Nintendo, it was. I think it was probably the weakest of the big three.
James, what are your opinions on Spider-Man 2?
I mean, as far as the whole Sony showcase, this is just going to contribute to your argument because it's part of the problem. I didn't even watch. I was there for Spider-Man. I just waited for the Spider-Man trailer to drop.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
I won't overly get into this.
I know what you're going to talk about.
But yes, when they redesigned good old Peter, I kind of tapped out. I said, I cannot get past this.
Yeah.
But the presentation for Spider-Man 2 was so good. I'm sitting there crossing my fingers saying, please God, I hope that they made this look better than it looked in that remaster, because Craven, I'm kind of glad that Insomniac is the one who got to Craven first.
Well,
compared to the movie.
Compared to what the MCU might have done, compared to whatever the heck's going to come out later this year in the movies.
it's coming out in like the same week, so we're gonna have
The Craven episode.
we can have Insomniac Craven and Sony Pictures Craven.
That's insane.
Dude, it's going to be great. But as far as the Craven in the game, I loved the fake out of seeing this guy in the reveal trailer, and you're like, oh, that's Craven, and it's like a fake out. I've been jokingly saying that was like MCU Craven, and then Insomniac Craven came out of the bushes and took him out. And
It seems a little like Craven's Last Hunty, which is ideal.
I think he's hunting like the symbiote kind of.
Yeah.
like the black suit looks
which is
cool. Miles, the stock has done nothing but up for me recently, so I am so excited to see another story with Miles and Peter side by side, not competing with each other, not occupying different worlds. I'm gonna enjoy seeing them be like partners as superheroes, because we actually haven't seen that a lot. Even in the comics, they're usually in their own little separate worlds.
Yeah.
Well,
There's a lot.
The Miles dynamic that we're kind of used to with Spider-Verse is like father and son, but this is more like big brother, little brother.
Yeah, they have a really cool dynamic.
Well, we haven't seen it a lot because I think they've been so careful to protect Miles, as saying now that he's in the same universe as Peter for, I think, about since 2015. Like, he is not Robin. He's not a sidekick. He is his own Spider-Man. So I think that's why they try to not have him so frequently paired with Peter across things.
Which I think is probably
But I
wise.
like how this version of Miles is so good, and the storytelling in these games is so good that they're like, we can have them side by side and they're going to stand on their own. They're probably going to build a Miles having to take down Black Suit Peter, which I think will be
that's
awesome.
Gonna be sick.
It's going to be a
They
great
gotta
boss
do that.
battle if that happens. They're juggling the pieces well in this game with the Black Suit, with Craven, with freaking Tony Todd Venom. That's going to be so cool.
That's gonna be awesome.
We haven't even seen anything. Like, if that's
Yeah, they're
like
keeping
Doc
Venom
Ock
under
or it's
wraps.
the
Yeah, I think we have like that one piece of concept art where they're fighting him.
In the initial trailer,
Yeah.
but they're
Yeah.
keeping Venom very purposely on the down low, which has me excited.
Which, I don't have too much to say on that because it's another thing that it's been a minute. But, I mean, I'm excited. I'm so excited enough to where I can maybe look past getting rid of that great, older, 23-year-old Peter design and replacing him with something that seems like it's to plug Tom Holland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, game looks good. Excited for it. I think it's pretty safe to move on.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of nicely transitions us into our next topic because Spider-Man comes out on October 20th. And so does...
Super Mario Wonder, baby!
Yeah, so we're going to have a busy week because Super Mario Wonder is...
Don't forget Sonic Superstars.
We're going to get there.
You better believe I won't.
We're gonna.
So, Liam, tell us about the
All right.
Nintendo Direct and start out with Super Mario Wonder.
Okay, so first things first, we did not expect a Direct.
Yeah.
Nintendo did. It was weird. It was like a bait and switch thing where they put a lot of stuff out on their Twitter, which is abnormal right before a Direct. So people, I think that the best example was like they dropped like a little Pikmin 4 story blurb, and people were like, oh well, this would have been the Direct, so I guess we're getting like Twitter drops instead of the Direct. And there was another thing they announced, but I don't remember what it was. And then I like the day before or a couple of days before or something like that. They're like, oh, by the way, E3 season June Direct is coming tomorrow. I was like, oh, shit, okay. So going into it, people were looking for Pikmin 4 news, which we got. People were looking for the next Mario anything. You know, a lot of people I think were hoping for like an Odyssey 2 situation.
Me.
I think we're all hoping for it, but it's much more likely, in my opinion, that that's going to be a system seller. The
For sure.
Switch is so old at this point. It's the same thing with Metroid Prime 4, that I would be surprised if we saw the next 3D Mario and even Metroid Prime 4 on the Switch. I think they'll probably save that for the next console.
They'll be launch titles.
Yeah, which that's going to be an awesome launch season. But to go with what we did have announced, I have a couple of little bullet points that are just some areas of interest. Starting with Sonic Superstars. I'm gonna pass it over to James here, our resident Sonic fanatic.
All right, here we go. Yeah. So I'm gonna
What do you think, buddy?
save my character from that. Grew up as a Sonic fan.
Oh,
For some
no.
reason.
Poor guy.
Yeah, I know. It's been a life. But as far as Sonic Superstars, I didn't see that coming. Everybody loved Mania. Like, Mania was one of the few times in a minute that Sonic's actually gotten praise with a game.
Mm-hmm. Generations, I think, people like that
Yeah,
one
that
pretty
was
well.
before Mania.
It's been a minute since Generations
Generations
though,
was good.
unfortunately.
There was like
But-
a little point where Sonic was pretty good.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
had...
but it's been a minute.
yeah,
And I
Unleashed.
think everybody was wondering, how are they going to continue this Mania thing? Is there going to be a follow-up? It seems like there's been rumors that there's a bit of a fallout with trying to put that together with, like, Christian Whitehead. It's not enough rumors to really, like, say, like, oh, this happened. But it doesn't seem like a Sonic Mania 2, like, carried through. So this seems like it was the response to that, which is, okay, we're not going to try to recreate what they did. Let's do something new. It was
Yes.
very refreshing, but now it's about to be caught in such a shadow that we're about to get into. I really hope the best for it. I really haven't been following Sonic nearly as closely for a little while now, about like 5 or 6 years. But I mean, I hope the best. But yeah, he's got to fight a fight
Yeah, I
like
mean,
30
the-
years in
the
the making
ancient
cut
battle
out for
again.
him.
Yeah. Sonic is like... once again, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is in desperate need of a win.
Mm-hmm.
And you had the movies, which a lot of people liked, and then Mario kind of came in and stole the thunder.
Had like the biggest animated movie of all time.
And now, this 2D game got announced. It didn't get announced at the Direct. But it got announced like a month ago,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like, oh wow, Sonic's doing something that Mario isn't. And then Mario comes in with a sledgehammer and announces a game that is going to release 3 days after Sonic.
It's so cruel. Talking about the game just in a vacuum, though, it looks fun. It looks really fun.
It does look fun.
It does.
It seems like the 2D classic with HD 3D graphics that Sonic fans have been clamoring for as long as I can remember. So, in a perfect world, it would be done by the Mania team. They actually have been working on a game called Penny's Big Breakaway, which is it's like a 3D platformer, also announced during this Direct. Looks great. But I think Sonic. I think it's gonna be a good game.
Well,
It's gonna be fun at the very least.
you mentioned the team that is working, the team that you wish was working on this game. What is the team that is working on Superstars? What's the game that they made that was like awful, that we were joking about the other day?
Oh man, I don't even know.
No, it was made by one of the ex-Sonic devs. Remember that?
No,
It came out last year. It was like horrifically bad.
it's not Balan Wonderworld.
Ballad Wonderworld.
No, it's no way.
Yes,
Is it really?
The people that made that game are involved in Superstars.
Ooh,
Yeah.
well that's
It's
you don't
not
you don't
good.
want that.
James, do you know about Balan Wonderworld?
I do not.
Oh, sweet prince.
Okay, for James and the audience.
It's like the funniest game in the whole world.
For James and the audience, can you briefly explain what that game is?
Balan Wonderworld was it Square Enix who did it?
It was an ex-Sonic dev, and I think Square Enix.
Let's see. Yeah, it is Square Enix. Okay. Full disclosure, I'm not a Square Enix fan. I do not jive with how they make games, generally speaking.
Yeah.
So imagine, James and viewers, if Square Enix tried to make Super Mario Odyssey. That is Balan Wonderworld. So you play as like this little kid type creature, and you get sucked into this goofball world with like a DeviantArt bait hat creature,
It's a lot like Cappy.
and it's so bad. They're like captures, but they're all just like kind of shit. It's like each one of them is just like it doesn't quite do what you want it to. I think there are like 3 captures in the game that are like an interesting idea, and then the other one is like I think the most famous example is the one where it kind of like grows you a little bit, and then you can jump, but you jump like an inch higher than you normally would. it's got like these completely out of nowhere, off the wall like dance sequences. Like when you save one of like the people you're supposed to rescue, you have like a huge dance break with like this crazy music. It is absolutely hilarious. If you want a good laugh, just look up Balan Wonderworld Balan Wonderworld.
Yeah, there are some really funny videos.
Go to YouTube. You'll have a great time. I had no idea
guys-
that was this. That's ooh.
Okay, so Balan Wonderworld
You don't want that.
was like the Gollum of 2021. It's fucking horrific.
It's really
And
bad.
allegedly, one of the team, somewhere in the team for Sonic Superstars is Balan Wonderworld's hands, alongside Sonic Team. So, let's pray to God.
It looks good. It looks good. Even the trailer for Balan Wonderworld, I was like, because I'm like a big platformer. It had a little stink on it from the get-go, which Sonic does not have. So I'm going to
Hope to God.
give him the benefit of the doubt. I think that it's like making a 2D platformer good. It's got to be easier than making like a 3D Super Mario Odyssey game good. We're like, you got to get just good level design, get the momentum right, especially with Sonic, get like the speed right.
No, Green Hill Zone.
It's gonna be
there's
the
not. There's not. I'm so excited.
There's
There's
not?
not?
There's gonna be like the Green Hill-esque level, obviously, but they're not going to Green Hill.
Holy
apparently.
shit! Is that
And it's
do you see that pig flying up there? That's how do you get there,
I know it's raining cats and dogs.
dude? I got a friend in hell. He is freezing right now. He's saying it's so cold.
I did say though, and I'm always rooting for him, but it is funny when you've messed up so bad that people are saying, "Oh well, at least Sonic Team is there to help them."
Yeah.
That's not ideal.
I
but
think the game will be good.
I think it'll be good too. I'm probably gonna get it. It looks fun. Moving right along, Mario Kart announcements. The booster courses, which have been a total slam dunk. They got new characters coming out. We got Petey Piranha from Double Dash.
That's awesome.
That's cool. That was a heavily predicted one. Then we got Wiggler, I think from 7.
Yeah.
And I could have gone without Wiggler, but I don't know. I don't want to piss off the Wiggler fans in chat, so sure, we got Wiggler. Kamek, which, okay, sure, why not? He was in the Mario movie. He had like a speaking role. I can see it. He's from Tor. Whatever. The map looks fun as hell.
It's like a bathtub.
I feel like it's gonna gel really well with like a group of friends. Where it's like if someone is constantly in third place, which could be anyone in our friend group.
It's Liam.
It could literally be anyone.
Actually, you and James kind of have a mid-off.
It's me and Liam are battling for third.
Yeah.
I'm mostly battling for second. I don't know about third, but anyway, it's like if someone sucks at the game, you're like, oh, I've got a map that's perfect for your skill level, and then you take them to like the poo map. Like that's I can appreciate that. I'm not made of stone. So I think that looks cool. I think them not showing a lot of maps. The people who are gonna buy the booster course are gonna buy the booster course.
Well, it's already. The good thing is that we already bought it.
Right. Like they don't need to like sell us on the maps. So the fact that we're gonna be going in basically blind and seeing like all the maps they add, it'll be cool. So I can handle that. The one they did show looks great. New characters. I want Funky Kong, but we have more booster courses to go before it's
We have
impossible.
one more after this.
They're gonna add them. There's no way.
Yeah. Well, it does put us in an interesting spot. This is such a funny niche thing to speculate here. Is that we only have 2 more characters left after this.
Diddy and Funky. Calling it now.
Okay. Alright.
That's my lock of the week.
I
Sonic.
think they might supplement one of the Kongs for Pauline because people really like Pauline.
They better do Diddy, man, because if they don't have Funky Kong in this game, it will be a crime.
Yeah.
People love Mario Kart Wii. Like, if you ask like a hardcore Mario Kart player, which does exist,
That's
Us.
me.
Yeah.
if you ask them like what their favorite Mario Kart game is, there's like a maybe 70-30% chance it's going to be Wii. And then in Wii, the absolute best setup was Funky Kong on the Flame Runner bike. And the fact that Funky Kong is not in this game, which has like rose gold peach in it, which was a whole thing when it came out.
Like all the Koopa kits.
Yeah, they got it. They got to add him. They're going to add him. I would be shocked to my core, and I would need 3 days bereavement if they did not add Funky Kong. But they're going to. I have faith.
Well, all I gotta say on Mario Kart is it's a great game. I've loved playing it for a long time. My answer for my favorite Mario Kart game for a long time has been Wii. But, it's crazy that Mario Kart 8 is still dropping content. It has made it my favorite game just with how much is in there now.
Yeah.
So I don't got much worry.
It's the most bang for your buck, for sure.
Mario Kart 8's definitely my favorite. Might be a hot take, but it is.
We'll see. When all the booster courses are out and we got all our characters and Funky Kong's in the game, we can have a conversation. We'll see.
It's just there's like 96 tracks by the time this is over. That's
96 tracks and only one gorilla. That's fucked up.
All right, I think that's enough Mario Kart. We have talked about it briefly that we want to play Mario Kart at some point.
Yeah, if that's something you'd be interested in, it gets heated. So let us know in the comments. We can have some special guests on down the road. So to continue with direct news, probably the biggest surprise for people from this direct. Now, it was leaked. A lot of stuff from this direct was leaked. Yeah, there was a leak before the direct.
Oh.
I didn't see the leak, so this shocked me, but a Super Mario RPG, not port, but full remake, because Nintendo's been doing a thing for a long time where they take their old games and they bundle it with NSO, and then they stick them on there, and they work. It's fine. Everyone has a good time, but this is a full remake of Super Mario RPG, which caught me off guard, definitely. I mean, it's not a game I don't think any of us have played.
No.
But it is a game that people are absolutely passionate about. I mean, if you have any interaction with like the Smash scene, Geno for Smash has been it's an iconic battle cry of the Smash community at this point.
It's more of a possibility now?
I think that if there is a next Smash game, which is a conversation to be had with Sakurai saying that he's basically done after Ultimate, which is valid. There's a conversation to be had that Geno is more likely than he's ever been with this remake, which will make people very happy. But I don't think any of us have a ton to say about the remake itself, just because, again, we haven't played it. It looks good. I'll definitely check it out. But I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about remakes in general for Nintendo. So if you could have any game not only brought onto Switch, but given a full remaster facelift, what would it be?
Without ruining its identity, Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, I could kick down with that. What do you think, James?
Wii Sports Resort, obviously.
I honestly don't really disagree with that at all.
No, like, I say it with a bit of jest, but I would love like a Switch Sports Resort.
Well, Switch Sports kind of sucked.
They kind of.
What do you say?
Switch Sports was kind of a stinker.
Yeah, that was definitely sad to hear. But if they have the IP established, if they wanted to really go for it with an improvement sequel and do Switch Sports Resort, I would have fun with that.
Yeah, why not? For me,
that's a crazy.
It is definitely going to be Wind Waker, which is not on the Switch at all. I think what they're going to do, I hope, is do an NSO bundle with GameCube games. It's kind of like there's a GameCube shaped hole in NSO's library, I think. And then what they did with like Link's Awakening, and you can play a ton of the Zelda games on Switch. I don't think you can play like Twilight Princess, but they brought Skyward Sword, stuff like that over. Obviously, you've got Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. It's sort of like what they've been doing for Pikmin, where now the Switch is like, you can play every Pikmin game on the Switch. Like, that's really cool. So if they could do that with some of their bigger franchises, like if you could have just like one console that you can play every single Zelda game on, and you can take it on like an airplane, that'd be awesome.
I think that's kind of what they're building towards.
I hope so. We'll see.
With like the Xbox Series X, they still sell them. They sell their games in the same box as Xbox One games.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine the next console is going to be the exact same library. You get able to play Switch games on it too.
Yeah, I hope that for their next console they don't like get rid of all of the work they've done to bring stuff over to Switch, because the Switch, it's still selling. Like if you look at Tears of the Kingdom, like the Switch is still selling on par with next gen consoles, which is
Well, it was selling better than them for a while.
yeah. So it's obviously there's like a Nintendo bias there. Like people are always going to buy Nintendo,
Mm-hmm.
but they've done a lot of work to make the Switch like the ultimate console for playing Nintendo games, new and old. So if they could bring on Wind Waker, I would pretty much be set. I don't know.
I think the most relevant example of that in this direct is the Pikmin stuff.
Yeah, which is next on the docket, so we can just get into that if you want.
Yeah.
So to talk about Pikmin 4, the next and final thing on the docket before we get into Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which is, I think we all have the most to say about Wonder. Pikmin 4 looks great. I'm definitely the most
Not a Pikmin guy.
Pikmin-versed out of your hosts here, but it looks great. It looks like it's taking a lot of stuff from 1, 2, and 3, a lot of stuff from 2. Like it looks like they're bringing back caves. It looks like we're going to be seeing like the inside of houses, which is cool. And Pikmin, humanity's always been like in the background or hinted at, and now it's like front and center. So it is a fantastic time to be a Pikmin fan. Like we mentioned in the previous segment, if you want to play all Pikmin games in a row on your Switch, once Pikmin 4 is out, you can do that. Which is
dropping 1 and 2.
Yeah, 1 and 2. They dropped it.
Oh, they already dropped
Yeah,
it?
it was a stealth drop, like
Oh, wow.
the Metroid remaster that came out, which was also a banger. So Nintendo's doing some really cool stuff. I love the thing they're doing where they're taking remasters and ports and they're announcing it, and then you can just go play it. That's super cool. But Pikmin, yeah, I don't think we have a lot to say about that either. It looks cool. I'll probably check it out. I hope that
We'll cover it on here.
Yeah, it'll be covered on here. I hope that it sells because
It's just not as big. It's kind of like in the Splatoon tier, where it's like it has its dedicated fan base in the Nintendo ecosystem, but it doesn't like bring in people from outside.
ultimately,
Yeah.
when more obscure Nintendo franchises sell better, they are more incentivized to like dip into their library and take a look at something like F-Zero, which has been requested for ages. Like if they can sell Pikmin 4,
Yeah.
they can sell F-Zero, is what I'm getting at. And you can see they are really, really trying to push it. Like bringing Pikmin 1 and 2, like if there were any reservations with people, it's like, oh, I don't really want to play Pikmin 4 because I haven't played the originals and there's no way to play it. Now you can. So,
Well, to add to that, because on the Nintendo eShop, you can see the most sold stuff.
mhm.
Pikmin 1 and 2 is number 3.
Yeah, so
It is selling.
it's getting there. It's selling. So if Pikmin 4 is a success, I think we can see Nintendo be a little bit more confident with their IPs that aren't Mario and Zelda, frankly. Like Metroid is another huge one that they are pushing. So
Please,
if
Jesus.
Metroid works out, we can get more stuff. I mean, we all just want more stuff. We can eventually down the road, if Metroid Prime 4 is like a huge hit, with them dipping their toes in the movies now, we could be seeing like Metroid
That would be awesome.
movies, which would be sick. So
One more thing before we talk about Wonder is the Nintendo Live whole spiel. So a few months ago, they pulled Smash Brothers out of EVO, which if you don't know, EVO is like the big fighting game convention. They had Multiverses there when that came out. They had Mortal Kombat, and they usually have Smash Brothers there. And for the first time, Nintendo pulled them out, and everyone was kind of curious as to why. And the reason is because they're going to have this event in Seattle. So if for some reason we have any Seattle listeners, they're going to have an event in Seattle where
Maybe.
it's going to be a Smash Brothers Nintendo held tournament, which if you know anything about Nintendo's whole tone on Smash Brothers is super unlike them. They hate Smash being competitive. To put
yeah, they
it
see it
bluntly.
as a party game.
And for them to actually embrace that is bittersweet because they did take it out of Evo, but it is cool to see them do that.
Well, I'm not sure if it's so much of like an embrace. I feel this is maybe a bit too cynical, but I feel like they're like trying to get more of a corner on the market. Nintendo is super super protective of all of their IPs. I don't have to tell anybody that.
Yeah, you will not be seeing us doing Nintendo walkthroughs on this channel.
No. So I feel like Smash had such a healthy, robust scene that Nintendo couldn't really control. And I think that was a huge part of why they weren't supportive of it. So they take it out of Evo. They don't help the scene at all. In fact, they're like borderline antagonistic towards the Smash scene, which was a bunch of tournaments that was like set up by players, really.
Yeah, they have a problem with that. I know they do. Like they're weird with like Melee emulation.
Yeah, exactly. Like the Dolphin emulator is a huge thing with them. So this to me seems like they are trying to do it their way themselves. It seems
they're super stubborn.
It seems less, I don't want to say less competitive, but it seems, I don't know, it's just different. The vibes are off. The vibes are off.
Yeah.
I think this year is going to be like a huge trial for this whole Nintendo Live thing. And if we see players from the Smash scene show up and try their hand at this Nintendo sanctioned tournament, it could turn into a different thing. But how these players, the top players of Smash, are so used to having like freedom in tournaments to sort of conduct themselves how they will. And tournament runners have, like, one of the best examples is like Hungry Box. If you guys watch him, he's a Smash player. His weekly tournament series, the Coin Box, has banned Steve. It was a whole thing a while ago. There's no shot Steve is banned at this Nintendo tournament.
No, because
they're trying to sell him. They're trying to sell the character. And so, like, if the players have determined that Steve is like unhealthy for the competitive scene, and they elect to ban him themselves and like self-police, and now the only like big tournament with presumably prize money behind it that's like sanctioned by Nintendo, it's just the game. Like, I'm not even sure if they'll stick to like Battlefield only, no items. It's a huge unknown. If their tournament is just like default Smash with like items and map hazards and whatever character, it's just not going to be competitive. So it's hard to speculate outside looking in. We'll have to see how it turns out. We'll have to see who shows up. It'll be interesting if you're in the Smash scene.
Well, the way they're doing it is they're going to hold virtual tournaments throughout the year, and then the top 10 placers of each of those three are going to go to it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they're probably going to invite people too. So I think there are going to be enough people at it, but it does feel a little weird, and it contextualizes the whole Evo controversy.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'm going to choose to be cautiously optimistic because the Smash scene could use a W. I think the event itself looks great.
Yeah, it's not just Smash.
Yeah, I think there's like Splatoon stuff.
There's Splatoon.
There's Mario Kart. And then there will be like demos and whatnot.
So I think the whole deal is that there's like a show floor, kind of like a Comic-Con. There's a Mario Kart tournament, Splatoon tournament, and Smash Brothers tournament. And then the thing that I would love to see is they're going to have a concert for Legend of Zelda's music and a concert for Mario's music, which is so cool.
That'd be so
That's
peak.
awesome.
So, one thing, unless I'm misinformed here, is that the way this works is that it is not like a paid admission. It's like a raffle system. So, if you're smart enough to listen to us, go sign up for the raffle.
Yeah, now's your time. You better do it if you want to go.
Yeah. And it's free. If you're in this
Which is cool. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Part of me wishes that you could just like get a ticket for it. But it's like a Willy Wonka's golden ticket thing for Nintendo adults. It'll be fun to watch.
There's been a lot of cool video games branching off into like interactable events recently,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one of them.
All right. Well,
Cool.
to wrap up the recent Nintendo news before we get into Tears of the Kingdom and just general news, the biggest announcement by far, in my opinion, of the June Direct was Super Mario Brothers Wonder. What are your thoughts?
Damn you, Nintendo. Doing Sonic like that.
Actually, James, I'm curious what you think
Yeah,
about this.
let's see.
I mean, I'm excited. I kind of pick up some Mario games. I haven't touched others. I'm definitely starting to get more into him actually recently.
That's
I'm
crazy.
excited. I was watching the trailer and it looks fun. I have a pretty casual perspective on it. And as somebody who's enjoying their Switch just more and more recently, I totally think I'm going to pick it up, even as a casual Mario fan. 'Cause that's
Yeah.
my perspective, really.
So I'm kind of in a similar spot because when this game was first announced, and it was announced on the same day as Spider-Man, that's damn. Like, we're gonna have 3 games come out in 1 week that we're interested in.
Yeah, I mean,
Unless they move Sonic.
They're not going to move Sonic.
Or they
Sonic,
should.
Mario, Spider-Man. I mean, those are huge IPs, all within like a week of each other. So it'll be cool to see how they sell. I think if I had to guess, the top seller will be Mario, just because it has the widest
I think
appeal.
it'll be Spider-Man.
We'll have
I
to
think it'll be
see.
Spider-Man.
So, my whole thing with 2D Mario is it's been so safe.
Mm-hmm.
It feels a lot like Green Hill Zone, but the entire game.
Yeah, especially with the new Super Mario Brothers stuff. Which
Yeah.
I mean, they're fun platformers, but
they're not innovative.
the best comparison that people make is you take like a new Super Mario Brothers game and you compare it to one of the Donkey Kong Country games that came out recently, specifically Tropical Freeze. It is just night and day. Like as far as just like designing something that's interesting to look at, like in Donkey Kong.
Don't pontificate about Donkey Kong for too long.
I'm a big Donkey Kong fan, but my point with it is that Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, like every platform is like in the world. Like you can imagine that like this is like a real world. You're not just like in Nowheresville, Green Hill Zone, going to get Bowser. Like you're like swinging on vines and shit, and like
Dude, that fucking roller coaster is
The-
gonna be so awesome.
the map like changes and it's dynamic and it's like the map, like I think the best example in Tropical Freeze is like the fruit island where you sort of like follow the journey of a fruit until it's turned into a popsicle, like all throughout the levels. Like you don't get that kind of stuff, or you haven't
The new
anyway,
Super Mario Bros.
in New Super Mario Bros. And the thing that I kept thinking when I was watching the trailer for Wonder was, this is closer to like a Donkey Kong Country, where it feels, especially like the stuff they did with like the silhouette,
Mm-hmm.
like there's a ton of shared DNA, which was absolutely the right call. I think another thing that's standing out to people are the animations. Like even something as simple as like Mario's walk hasn't been touched since like the Wii U, and now we have all new animations. We've got new power ups.
Yeah, the elephant.
The elephant in the room.
They put your mom in the game.
It looks it's an exciting 2D Mario game, which
Is what we need, and I
is
think
exactly what the franchise needed.
I think the game design, because my criticism of New Super Mario Bros. Is not exclusive to me. I think this game, a lot like Starfield is like directly listening to the fans, and it seems like they have picked up on the people kind of sleeping and not really being enticed or appealed by their 2D stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, call me unrealistic. I wanted 3D Mario at this direct. I know for a fact that it's going to be the system seller for the Switch 2.0, whatever it's called, the Switch Series X. But this looks good for now. It'll hold me over.
It looks like they're taking a lot of ideas. It seems kind of like what they did with Odyssey, with the Wonder Flower, where like you touch the flower and then the game's just like totally different. You got new controls or the map reacts. It's just, it seems like the whole selling point of this game is that it is 2D Mario where seemingly anything can happen. Like 2D Mario has been in a state where like you're going right, there's some Goombas, maybe like the ground is like a spinning wheel sometimes, and especially in the lens of like Mario Maker, where that engine has been in the hands of players for so long that people who love 2D Mario have had an endless smorgasbord of Mario content to play that's like player made, and honestly has like kind of danced around what Nintendo has been doing. Like there's some really good stuff
Mario Maker's
in
awesome.
Mario Maker. So the big question after Mario Maker 2 is like, they let us make our own worlds. Where do we go from here? What is the next 2D Mario game look like in a world where you can go and play infinite games with the world builder?
And you can play 3D World.
And you can play Donkey Kong, frankly. And this seems more than anything like Nintendo's answer to that.
It
where here is a game where you can only get these mechanics in this game. I watched a video this morning actually where a guy tried to remake the Wonder trailer in Mario Maker. You can't really do it, which is super exciting.
Do you think they're gonna add Wonder to Mario Maker?
I don't think they should.
Really? Do you think there's a Mario Maker 3, which there will be?
There will be. I don't know. I feel like if they want people to keep buying their 2D standalone Mario games, they either need to keep evolving, which is what they're doing with Wonder, seemingly, or they need to dial back what they give you in Mario Maker. I mean, I guess it's sort of a have your cake and eat it too scenario. I don't think 2D Mario is ever going to not sell well. I mean, it's Mario.
Mm-hmm.
But
I do have to say, I think that's... Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
No, good, James. Yes, please.
I was just saying, I think it would be the mark of a great game that you literally have a game builder out for the franchise, and you come in and say, nobody can do it like us, and drop a great game and let it flourish in its own space, not instantly be in Maker. Let Mario Wonder take up the spotlight for a bit.
Absolutely. Yeah, if they do put it in a Mario Maker, give it some time to be its own thing, because people will just outclass it instantly.
Yeah, I think it looks cool. I'm probably going to pick it up.
It looks great.
It's going to be a busy week.
Also, playable Daisy. That's never happened before, to my knowledge.
So there's one big elephant in the room, if you will, with this game, which is the whole Charles Martinet
I heard about that.
debacle.
Now, has it been confirmed that it is or isn't his voice?
It has not been confirmed, but it does not sound like him. So, what do you think?
Well, there are a couple different timelines here. There is the timeline where Charles Martinet saw the Mario movie, saw that like Nintendo is able to do Mario without him, and said, you know what?
I'm going to take my residuals and retire.
Yeah, exactly. That's a timeline.
He could just be getting old.
That's timeline number 2, where that is Charles Martinet,
His
but
voice.
Nintendo has been using the same wahoo for so long that when they record new stuff, we're like, that doesn't even sound like him, but it is. I'm in the camp where I think it probably is him.
Yeah, Sam.
And I think that we probably just haven't heard him in a while. But if
they would also like announce that, I don't think they would just like.
I'm not sure if they would. I don't know.
I mean, look, Charles Martinet is not going to be able to voice the character forever.
No.
So, I could definitely
Chris.
see if you're going to recast him,
Mm-hmm.
doing it in a 2D game instead of a main 3D title.
It kind of eases into it. Oh,
Yeah,
I still think it's him. It sounds like him.
it sounds like him.
I don't know. Nintendo fans have, and it's me. I'm Nintendo fans, but we have a proclivity to like hone in on like a little oddity in a trailer and freak out about it for months and months and months, and then the game releases and it was like nothing. So
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it. If it isn't Charles Martinet, I'm sure they have a good or he has a good reason to sit it out. Maybe he is retiring.
I mean, he's old, and voice acting is very hard.
It takes a toll on your voice, for
Yes,
sure.
especially to do a voice that animated and unique.
So we'll see.
I mean-
I'm not worried about it. I think closing thoughts, it's absolutely a day one buy for me.
Same.
I think that seeing something this...
Yeah, for sure.
I think seeing something this new in a Mario game is super novel. So I'm excited to check it out.
Cool. I think that's all we have to say on that.
All right.
That's all I got, yeah.
James, I'm going to let you take the reins on this one because you actually finished Tears of the Kingdom last night,
Yes.
if I understand it correctly.
Please take us through the timeline,
Yes.
James.
So basically, as far as this goes over just into video games broadly, there's been a lot of video games in the past 6 or so years that I've just missed out on. I couldn't tell you why. It's not
Skyrim.
some big thing about the modern state of gaming. I just kind of had a period in my life where I was like, I'm just not playing video games as
The
much.
modern state of gaming.
I mean, that is
Yeah, I'm,
That's fair, I guess. Good
That is-
games are
it's
out
a
there
whole
if you look
thing.
for 'em.
that is incredibly
it's just
fair.
not what motivated me.
Fair
Like
enough.
I just had some time where I was a bit off of video games, and now I'm like, all right, I want to play video games again. Where do I start? Well, Breath of the Wild. So I played that in anticipation of playing Tears.
James, when
and
did you play
Talking about both
Breath of the Wild?
within the past month.
And when did you play Tears of the Kingdom?
In the past couple weeks, like week and a half.
Oh my god.
I've got a cool 170 plus hours in Tears of the Kingdom. I don't know how you did it.
I was just running with reckless abandon. I'd been spreading it out. I did have a good chunk of the game to play over the past 36 hours, but an inhuman amount of that time may have been playing the game, knowing this recording was coming up.
Well, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so-
I can give very broad. Yeah, and for the one or two people who randomly do click on this video and they're like, subscribe because I care.
the 5 billion people that
but
watch this podcast.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed the game. We can get into our thoughts.
Well, I think
Unless you want me to just go for it.
I think
and
you have a
share my
unique perspective.
initial thoughts
Because
now.
you just played
Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild and you're going right into Tears of the Kingdom.
So, how do the games
Yeah,
compare
okay. So
being
I can
juxtaposed
talk
so
about
closely?
that. Save for the obvious thing that a lot of sequel games do, where they take away all your toys and your health, and they say, "Okay, you got to restart." It felt like playing the same game. It felt like playing, not in a bad way. It
Like a
felt
logical
like one
continuation?
continuous story. It felt like the world that I had been exploring. I was just getting deeper into it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if there's anybody who complained oh, it's the same map. I didn't mind that at all because I enjoyed seeing how this world progressed over what seemed like a time jump.
Mm-hmm. It was.
A lot of the narrative kind of back and forth between Link and Zelda, and at the time, not exactly Ganondorf as he is in the second game, but still Ganon. It kind of just felt like this giant progression that I really, really enjoyed. It's my first Zelda story. The gameplay was great, of course. I'm mainly talking about narrative right now. But both games were a breeze gameplay-wise. I completely understand why
Okay.
they really are leading the charge in modern gaming.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty spot on. What would you? I guess we're kind of doing a little bit of a review here. So, what would you rate
Yeah.
both games?
Out of 10.
Both a 10.
Both
Okay,
of
well,
10. Hey, me too, man.
So
Yeah,
I'll go next,
Okay.
and then Liam will do his Nintendo pontificating.
I am the resident Nintendo adult.
So I bought a Switch when it came out in 2017, and I kind of bought it for Breath of the Wild, and Odyssey. When I played Breath of the Wild, I loved it. I mean, it's an iconic game for a reason, but I do think that Tears of the Kingdom is just like a significantly better version of that game. And not to like dismiss Breath of the Wild or anything, but I think a lot of the issues in Breath of the Wild, most notably the ending of Breath of the Wild, which, I mean, it's been 6 years, spoilers, I guess.
Spoilers for both games, for the record.
Yeah. Breath of the Wild's ending is pretty underwhelming, in my opinion.
It's all right.
I mean, I just think that Tears of the Kingdom's ending has the exact same structure and does it so much better. And I think this is the Tears of the Kingdom formula, honestly. Like, the temples are just better versions of the Divine Beast, except for the water temple, which sucked. The tears are just better than the memories. The narrative is more enticing, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
The characters are better. The game starts out the exact same. Now, I will say, when Tears of the Kingdom started out the exact same, and I hate to use the word exact, but in a very similar way, like you start out on the Great Plateau, and now you're on the Great Sky Island, and you do the 4 shrines and get introduced to your new abilities, and you speak to the first King of Hyrule instead of the last King of Hyrule, and then you jump down and you're told to go to 4 corners of the map. I was a little concerned because I do think this game's first act is retreading a lot of the same steps of Breath of the Wild. And eventually it starts to do that in a way where it builds momentum.
Mm-hmm.
But I was not immediately grabbed by this game. I think if you're playing it, wait till you get to Rito Village and definitely go there first. The game recommends you do. And that's when this game really kicks into full gear. But that first impression, I was a little worried.
It's so peak.
I was
a little worried.
Especially playing the games back to back. I was like, wow, I was just here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
doing these exact things.
Yeah. And once again, everything Tears of the Kingdom does, in my opinion, except for like a few things. Like, I do like the atmosphere better in Breath of the Wild. And that's kind of it, honestly. I like the tutorial more in Breath
I
of the
do
Wild.
think Great Plateau definitely takes Sky Island.
But Tears of the Kingdom just takes the bones of Breath of the Wild and just builds on them in such like amazing ways. Like the most obvious way is Ultra Hand, which is just magnesis, but with 10 times the agency in player choice, which is like ultimately where this game shines.
The game is just all about player choice, and it's interesting looking at something like Starfield or No Man's Sky, which is marketed as, you know, you could do whatever you want, go wherever you want, do anything. And then it's like, yeah, you can do that if you want to get in a ship and mine and build like a little house and look at some flora and fauna. Yeah, you can go anywhere, but it's just like
Anywhere isn't.
a billion planets that are like color swapped. Whereas you take something like Zelda, which is infinitely smaller, literally infinitely smaller. But every single area of the map is filled out with something. Like, you are rewarded for every like tree you climb, it feels. Like, even a tree that doesn't have like a Korok in it, you'll find a golden apple or something.
You see that Sky Island? You can go
Sorry,
to that.
James?
See that Sky Island? You can go to that.
Yeah. You see that mountain? You can climb it. And then
You actually can.
when you climb it, there's shit to do, which is, it's unusual. That's why I think Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom have such a grip on people, is because it's a game that puts you in a meticulously designed world that's basically just a huge sandbox, and it actually lets you do whatever you want. If you want, you can climb that mountain like a scrub, or you could build a fighter jet mech hybrid and scale it, or you could ignore the mountain altogether and save yourself the trouble of getting 1,000 Koroks. Or you could build a house, you know, there's house building in this game.
Yeah.
Or you could, you know, you really can do anything in this scope of what the game gives you. You can make whatever weapon you want, you can fuse.
The fusing system is so good. James, I want to hear your opinion on that.
The fusing system, I was a little shocked at first because the way they do it, I was like, wow, this is like interactable objects in a way that I'm not used to, like a bit more innovative. I had fun with that.
Yeah,
I had
I
fun
mean-
with the fusing.
I feel like a big criticism with Breath of the Wild. I feel like one that you probably had, because just like knowing your taste in games, is the weapon durability. So do you think that
Yeah.
was like a good way to rectify that?
Okay, I think with weapon durability, it used to be a peeve almost, where I was like, just let me focus on the game. But as noobish as I know that sounds,
No, I'm kind of with you on that, honestly. I didn't love the durability system.
I like the durability system.
but I got to a point in Breath of the Wild where I didn't mind it because the game had a good amount of giving you new stuff to replace it with. It actually almost seemed like it was encouraging you to keep the variety flowing.
Mhm.
That being said, in the new game, I didn't mind that. That was cool to be able to fuse stuff. So I had less of an issue with how it was in Breath of the Wild than I thought I would. That being said, I did not mind the innovation and maybe even addressing a bit of a complaint with how they did fusing.
Yeah, especially with the arrow system. Being able
Oh,
to
for
attach
sure.
like anything to the end of my arrow is so fucking cool.
Well, here's the thing.
loved that.
In Breath of the Wild, every time you killed a monster, it would drop like a million things that were ultimately only used to make elixirs. So it seems like this was the system they always wanted to have, where everything that drops is significant. Like everything has a use, which is ideal because it makes every single encounter worth it. In Breath of the Wild, for example, when you found a keys, like the little bat or something, and it came up to you and you whacked it with the sword and it dropped an eye, you're like, okay, here's my billionth eye that I can cook into a dull potion that'll last 30 seconds. Whereas in this game, when you see the same shit-eating bat enemy and you kill it, you get an eye. Now you have something you can slap on your arrow to help you fight the King Gliok, you know? So this game, the best way I can describe it is that it is rewarding. It rewards
Sure.
exploration. It rewards resource gathering and management. It rewards experimentation with both the fuse mechanic and trying new weapons, and Ultra Hand and trying to make some evil device. So it's rare that a game gives you so much freedom and trusts you with it, because a lot of games will give you really cool mechanics, but they'll put like a hindrance on it so you can't break the game. Zelda seems like it's pushing you on to break the game. Play the game however you want to. If you want to climb around the fire temple like Spider-Man and ignore all of the minecarts, you can do that. Or you can go through it like a big boy and do the minecarts. But the point is that it is a game that every choice you make, it might not have an impact on the story like an RPG, but every choice you make is rewarded, which is very, very cool. And it's something that I hope we can see more of in modern games, because I feel like Starfield, exactly. Like imagine you go to Zeta Reticulon 5 and you pick up a cool rock, and instead of just being something you can sell to a guy,
Glupshido.
yeah, instead of being a thing you could sell to Glupshido, you could use it to reinforce your ship's hull, or any number of things, and that goes for everything. So Breath of the Wild set a cool precedent in open world games where things are more open-ended yet still fleshed out, and I hope that trend continues with Tears of the Kingdom, because damn.
So I think we should take the conversation in a bit of a different direction, and I want us, with our power, to try to be critical of this game and name stuff that we think could have been done better.
I'm actually gonna have to think about it. This is like my favorite game of all time. I'm not even kidding.
So I have a couple of criticisms of this game. The first one is probably the most obvious one, which is the fact that no one remembers who I am,
Mm-hmm.
and it drives me nuts. James, you probably have the best perspective on this, given that you played both games back to back. How weird is it that no one remembers you?
It's kind of weird. Especially because it seems like there's a time jump.
Yeah.
Yeah, 7 years.
So I'm like, you think word would have gotten out a little bit, but there's this game called Breath of the Wild. I was in it. I did some cool stuff. My name's Link. You think that would get around?
Well, everyone knows Zelda. That's the thing.
Like Zelda's been like around like building stuff, and it's implied that you've been right behind her. People are like, oh, and who is this young traveler? It's like, dude,
And it's like people like
I've been here, man.
Bolson, you like
Lived in my lawn.
Yeah, Bolson,
That
who lives in
being
your
said,
lawn.
He's so fake for that.
In
Fuck
Breath of the Wild,
Bolson.
does not recognize you in Tears of the Kingdom, and it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
With the fantasy
That's-
world,
yeah.
you can kind of go all across the bar on how fast word gets out, how organized the world is. The only way that I buy it is that everybody in this world is in their own little shire where maybe they travel out, maybe a traveler comes in, but they keep to themselves. They have a bunch of nature between them.
I also think
And
you could take the angle where Link is just like a humble guy and he's just like sort of following Zelda around. He's not like going around advertising that, oh yeah, I'm the guy who beat that big pig who showed up not long ago.
It's the people that you like intimately knew that
Yeah.
don't recognize you. It like
For sure.
breaks your immersion a little bit.
It does. Yeah.
Well,
That's a fair criticism.
Like, I know it's not the most popular game franchise, but a franchise that I really like is the Horizon games on PlayStation. And in the first game, you go about your quest, and it has like world consequences and implications very similar to Breath of the Wild. In the second game, while you might not have met people, they have been impacted by those consequences, and when you tell them how involved you are, they start putting together who you are and like have respect for you or have like a disdain up for you. And I feel like saving Hyrule is like something that people would have heard about. I don't know. It's a little weird.
Yeah,
For
that's
me-
fair criticism.
So Liam,
Yeah.
it's your turn.
I've been trying to think this whole time.
Okay, James, we'll go to you. What is something that you're critical of this game about for?
I really only have one thing. It might be a little bit enhanced by playing the games back to back, but there's a certain level that I can put up with, but I generally don't like when at the start of a follow-up game, you fight the bad guy or something, and you watch all of your hearts and your health bar vanish away, and all your abilities and your endurance. And when that kind of happened at the start of this game, I kind of rolled my eyes because I was like, I can put up with a little bit of this. But the fact that I am Link waking up in my trousers again, kind of which is what you were saying, Jacob, I was
Yeah.
like,
It's
I
like
would
a-
have liked to see new enemies come in and make your expanded health, your endurance, your abilities seem pitiful.
Well, I see what you're saying, but then you have the Destiny problem of power creep, where there's no difference if you have 20 hearts or 3 hearts if 20 hearts don't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel
guess
like,
that's
especially for the casual audience, they sort of had to get rid of your stuff because they can't drop you into the sequel and start throwing like Giga Ganon at you at the gate. Because
I do think it's fair, though.
It's a fair
Yeah.
criticism, but I feel like if they went the route where you have all of your hearts and stamina at the start and they're just throwing like crazy enemies at you, I feel like it would alienate a lot of the more casual Nintendo player base.
Honestly, James, I think where we agree on that is just like repeating a lot of the same beats at the beginning of the game. Like, you played the games back to back, but I played Breath of the Wild 6 years ago, and even I was like, dude, I have done this already. Like, this is cute, it's magical, it's Zelda at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
But the structure of the game is the exact same up until the second half. And eventually it uses that to its advantage, but at first I got a very similar reaction. I did.
in my opinion, the redeeming quality of the first half of the game, at least narratively, is like the champion successors who become the sages.
Except for Yunobo. I fucking hate Yunobo.
Yes, I don't like Yunobo. No, I was about to say
Goron City was
Asteroid.
kind of the weakest part,
Yunobo.
except for the Fire Temple, which rocked.
The weakest part of this game, which actually I feel like, Liam, this might be like something that you would agree with if you're trying to find a complaint, is like the water temple in the Zora's Domain section.
I have my complaint picked out.
Okay.
So, first I have one nitpick, which is the King Gliok, which is
this is a good one.
supposed to be like
the Lionel.
The Lionel of this game. First of all, he's not that hard to fight once you know how to do it. Or you just slap a bunch of key size on your arrows and then go up and whack him. But I can even handle that. Like whatever, it's still fun, especially when he gets in like his second phase. He's really high up. Whatever. But he drops some bullshit, man. Like the loot you get from a Lionel is still infinitely better than the Gliok horn and like the wings. Like for me, I feel, especially the King. Like if you want the normal Glioks to drop horns, whatever, fine. But the King Gliok, which is sort of established even in game, in the Terrytown monster statue quest to be the king of all monsters in this universe. There's no incentive to go kill him. There's no juice reward.
That's weird.
So that's a nitpick, but my critique, because I wouldn't say that's like a critique. It's whatever. It's one enemy. But I feel like Rito Village was probably my favorite segment of early game. And reason being was that it felt absolutely far and away the most dire. Like when you get there, it's night and day from Breath of the Wild. All the adults are gone. It's children running everything. They're actively dying. Like as this tribe of people is getting genocided as much as they can in a Nintendo game. And it was crazy because I really enjoyed Rito Village in Breath of the Wild, and seeing it in such a state really motivates you. It grabs you. And it gives you like a why to save this village, and especially during the Colgera fight, the music which kicks in, it's a boss battle revamped version of Dragon Roost Island, which plays in the village as well. It instilled in me a feeling of, if I fuck up here and die to Colgera, the Rito are going to die, like full stop. And that's a cool feeling. It's a feeling that's best felt, I think, in Ocarina. Like the whole world is like that, where if you fail in Ocarina, you're living in Ganon's victory.
Yeah, we see the timeline of that.
Right. So that felt on par for me for the sequel. And then you get to the other places, and especially I keep wanting to call it Mount Doom. Death Mountain. The Gorons, they're just like cracked out. They're just eating rocks and not working.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird.
And then you could argue that there's a similar sense of urgency in
Gerudo Town.
Yeah, Gerudo Town. Gerudo Town was on par.
I liked it. They were like all in like a fallout bunker.
Yeah, they're all like huddled down there, and there are zombie Gibdo creatures, which should have been re-dead, you cowards, but whatever. But when you get to Zora's Domain, Sidon is doing a well enough job holding it back from affecting larger Zora. It's still like something that needed fixing. Same with Death Mountain, but even Gerudo Town, by the time you get into the dungeon, you're fighting the boss. Gerudo Town is pretty safe. You've like repelled the Gibdo invasion. So for me, the early game before Ganondorf never reached the height of making you feel like you are the hero of Hyrule, the only one who's able to save these people. That feeling was never replicated fully again for me. So if I have any critique, to make a long story short, it's I wish that the stakes were a bit higher in the early game.
Yeah, I think that's fair. When I was playing this game, I did not like the Zora's Domain section, which In Breath of the Wild, it was my favorite section of the game. In this part of the game, I mean, it felt like it was like a afterthought. Like it was like a fetch quest, and then there was just like getting up to it was like a lamer version of getting up to the Wind Temple, and I legitimately beat the Water Temple in less than 10 minutes, including the boss. It was crazy. So,
all of these criticisms aside, though, I think we are all sitting comfortably at a 10 out of 10. I mean, I had to rack my brain to find something I really didn't like about this game. So,
if you like the first game, you're gonna love this.
You're gonna love it. It's just the first game, but better. So
yeah, it's fantastic.
But it's been out for like a month and a half now. You don't need to hear it from us shitters that Tears of the Kingdom is great. Spoiler alert: it's a fantastic game. You should go play it. I feel like we need to get to our news segment because Jacob has cooked up a couple of headlines for us that are worth talking about.
So this is hopefully going to be a weekly thing, depending on the events of the week. Basically, we're gonna have our main talking points like we just did. This week we talked about Nintendo and Asteroid City and Starfield, but there's also like a lot of crumbs and small little things that happen that I still feel like are notable. So this week was packed with them. I think the most obvious one is the Across the Spider-Verse drama.
Yes.
Yep. So the entertainment industry is kind of this infamously, it's a lot like the video game industry. There's a lot of crunch, there's a lot of neglect of the workers, and Spider-Verse is, like we talked about in the last episode, like this incredibly ambitious, revolutionary, I mean, it's a 2 hour and 20 minute animated feature. So it was pretty surprising that the industry was able to pull that out. Well, part of it was that the working conditions for the film were nothing short of awful.
Death by 1,000 paper cuts, I saw one of the animators say.
Yeah, so the workers were forced to work 7 days a week, 11 hours a day, which is
absurd.
That's craziness.
Inhuman.
Yeah. I mean, James, you work in LA. What's your perspective on that?
I've worked, even if it's been for brief windows, on schedules like that.
Yeah, we did.
It's not sustainable. It hurts the product. I mean, it gets to a point where it's not productive.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is I think just on an ethical, doing right by your team level, if you have to push them to that to make it happen, delay it, or don't do it if the only way you know how to do it is to take advantage of your crew like that.
Yeah, so part of it was that they kept finishing the work on the film. And if you've watched the movie, the animation is incredibly intricate and it's detailed, and we went on and on and on about that in the last episode. Go watch it.
Please. But
they would finish the work and then they would show it to the higher ups and they'd say, nope, restart. And it was ported.
That's got to be so demoralizing too, because with how intricate that was, imagine showing it to like some corpo. He goes, eh.
Yeah, and apparently that happened 5 times over, up to 5 times over, that's insane. I don't understand how they were able to keep a budget on this movie of $100 million and force their workers to do stuff like that. I think,
lest we forget, the next one is announced for next year, and they haven't really started on it.
Yeah, so
that's gonna
good luck.
change.
To Liam's point, they've Beyond the Spider-Verse is slated for March 24th next year, and they have not started the movie. One of the animators in this big expose said that the only real work on the film was work done before they split the film into 2 parts, with Across the Spider-Verse and Beyond the Spider-Verse, because originally it was just one film. So they hopefully will not do this again, and if they do, it could be worse.
Well, it's going to be delayed. There's just no way.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to wonder if they saw how much money this movie made, and they said, all right, now that we have that, now that people are going to be dying for this 3rd movie, now let's make sure this doesn't happen to us a second time.
Yeah, for sure.
It's very meticulously timed to kind of be like, all right, everybody wants this movie now, and you know how much money it'll make. We're not doing this again.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, the movie's made half a billion at the box office, which was crazy.
It's a shame, and definitely the attitude that has been expressed, which I'm not going to overly, throw stones here, but to say welcome to making a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of fucked up.
I mean, as a leader, that's incredibly harsh. That's incredibly unempathetic. And especially right now with all these strikes and all these people wanting better conditions, better work quality, that was probably not the thing to say.
Yeah.
It's a little tone deaf.
So Amy Pascal said, quote, which is what James is talking about, if the story isn't right, you have to keep going until it is, which I guess entails 11-hour workdays, 7 days a week. And then she said, I guess, welcome to making a movie. Ouch.
Yikes.
It's kind of an awful response.
Bad look alert. Bad look alert. It's funny because the conditions were so clearly horrendous, but it's such a banger movie. It's really a testament to these animators that under these inhuman conditions they were able to crank out Across the Spider-Verse, which we spent like 45 minutes a week ago gushing over. So yeah. I hope that it's funny to say this, but I hope they delay it. I really do.
They have to.
Definitely.
Because obviously I want to see what happens next with that cliffhanger, but not at the expense of the artists behind it.
Yeah.
Because if you push, it's exactly what James said, if you push your workers and your artists that hard, the product is going to suffer. There has to be a balance struck between development hell and a hellish development,
We do not need to see a last few episodes of Evangelion situation with Beyond the Spider-Verse.
No, we do not.
I mean,
that'd be incredible, like pop culture drama.
Could you even imagine
do not need
if
that.
Beyond the Spider-Verse is a stinger?
Yeah, and apparently, like, you guys talked about how did they do that? How do these animators endure those conditions? Well, it turns out they kind of didn't. 100 of the animators left the film, which I think some of those animators are the ones that are doing this whistleblowing.
Probably.
For sure.
Notably, which this is kind of in a different sphere of the production, but still relevant, one of the animators said that Phil Lord, is kind of the creative mind behind the film, him and Chris Miller, Amy Pascal kept getting in the way, and her and Sony kept forcing him to rewrite the film, which in true Sony fashion is very up their alley. So, did they just get lucky?
I hope not, because I want to see that next movie.
It sounds like Phil Lord went to bat.
Yeah, it sounds like
he wanted to make.
It sounds like Phil Lord had some power, and he was able to resist the typical Sony creative.
Sony Spider sequel.
Well, let's talk some Sony, because
oh god,
we got the inevitable movie of the generation. Kraven the Hunter had a trailer. I want to say 6 days ago, where we find out that beloved comic book character Kraven the Hunter has his super Morbius powers from getting lion blood in a cut.
From a radioactive lion.
From a radioactive lion. Man, listen, you gotta applaud them for being so bold and releasing Morbius and looking at everything that happened with that and saying, let's do Kraven without Spider-Man and give him goofy wall running powers and have him get mauled by a lion.
Yeah, this is just...
It's gonna be... what are you doing, man?
We're gonna have to talk about it, unfortunately.
Listen,
and we're gonna be able to compare
this movie.
What is that, Jake?
Because we need to root for this movie, because if Kraven doesn't make money, then we don't get El Muerto.
True. Bad Bunny has left El Muerto. That's like...
That's the news of the generation.
I mean,
Can you give... Okay,
where were you when Bad Bunny left El Muerto?
I think
I was
there
crying.
might be someone...
Yeah.
He doesn't know...
I was in my panic room.
I think there might be someone who doesn't know who El Muerto is.
Yeah, Liam doesn't know who El Muerto is, man.
Get out from under
Sony's
a
like
rock.
trying to lead a villain verse with El. Let's do a Google search of El Muerto.
So, if I'm not mistaken, El Muerto, because they do all these villain spin-offs. They did Morbius and they did Venom, and now they're doing Kraven. The next one is El Muerto, who's appeared in, I'm almost positive, 2 issues is all he's appeared in.
Quality over
And
quantity.
What do you say, James?
Quality over quantity.
I mean, looking up El Muerto, it's really funny. They got El Muerto 2024 action superhero movie. The Adventures of Superhero El Muerto is the only blurb they have. This movie's coming out next year. And the cast is Bad Bunny, not in it anymore. And then we got our boy Crondon. Crondon, the American rapper.
He was in Black Lightning.
So
He's the villain in Black Lightning. I forget what it's called.
he's an alumni. He's a great. I hope he sells tickets because Bad Bunny is gone. I just it's just really funny to me that they're trying to do all these movies. Like Venom makes more sense than Kraven the Hunter and El Muerto to have a solo movie. Who the fuck is El Muerto? Man, I'm like a pretty good comic guy, and I heard about El Muerto for the first time
When they announced it.
when they announced that Bad Bunny was leaving it. I didn't even know this was a
No.
movie.
You didn't know this was a movie?
No. I don't give a shit about El Muerto, dude. And
Okay.
guess what? Nobody else does. This movie is going to make
Dude,
$5
Does
total.
he know? Okay, so
I guess not.
last year, if I'm not mistaken, might have been the year before. I don't know. Time flies. There was a Sony press release for all the Spider-Man stuff, and they announced Venom 3, and they were talking about Morbius in retrospect, and they talked about Across the Spider-Verse and Beyond the Spider-Verse and Kraven. And then they talked about El Muerto. Which is just
I'm ready.
I feel bad. I'm just laughing at El Muerto. I'm not.
Liam,
I'm sorry if there are.
you're not the only one.
I'm sorry if there are any El Muerto fans in chat, but dude, this is the dumbest shit in the whole world. He is empowered by a mystical mask. The
Yes.
name means the dead one.
He's like a luchador.
Wow.
Also, there's a leaked synopsis, or who knows, but just the idea is funny enough to talk about, where part of his origin is that he was fighting this wrestler.
Oh god.
Oh no.
And he was going to unmask.
$5 at Spider-Man.
Yeah, he was going to... no, the synopsis, I was being coy. This reported synopsis would be he was going to unmask Spider-Man, and Spider-Man, stabbed him with a paralyzing venom
What?
to save his identity. And so this is who knows? But the sad thing is, let's say that's bullcrap. Let's say that rumor is...
Where is this going? Where are all these fucking
I don't know. It's
bargain bin movies going?
it's the most disjointed cinematic universe of all time.
Well, it has something to do with Spider-Man, I think.
Oh,
Except for
So-
it doesn't.
okay. I think
Enough, yeah.
you've given me a good segue to disjointed cinematic universes. So, last week, and I don't want to do this too much because I think it's kind of a pattern in the comic book community and just in the entertainment community to dive too much into the box office of films and to kind of hyperfixate on that and only judge a film's success on the box office. And I do think it is relevant, but I don't think it's the only thing that determines a film's value. However, The Flash had not only a disappointing first weekend, the movie only made $61 million, I believe, in domestically, its opening weekend, which
That's bad.
the last
Not
episode, if
good.
you remember, their expectations for this were to do as good as the Batman, or at least
This is never gonna happen in a million.
We are not
It's-
getting that Batman Beyond movie with Michael Keaton.
we're not getting the Flash 2 because this week and the Flash had a 73% drop, which is the only worse drop than that in comic book movies is Morbius, and it almost beat Morbius. It only made 15 million domestically this weekend. In fact, it was beat by Elemental, which
Wow.
And-
Which Elemental's
Whoa.
also a stinker.
yeah, Elemental, because we talked about the box office about that last episode, had the lowest Pixar opening weekend of all time with 29 million on a 200 million budget.
You do not want your movie about The Flash, one of the most popular superheroes ever, and his first ever big screen solo movie, to get beat by Elemental and drop off Morbius style.
Yeah, and Across the Spider-Verse,
very bad.
Across the Spider-Verse is back on top at number 1 in the box office.
Let's
So
go.
these new movies are coming out, and Spider-Man doesn't care. Spider-Man is making more money than the Flash, and Spider-Man came out like a month earlier, which is just fucking crazy.
If I'm reading your little
Notes.
rap sheet here, I'm seeing Flash is at 15.3, and then No Hard Feelings, the
Jennifer Lawrence,
yeah, the
Lawrence
Jennifer
movie.
Lawrence like
romance movie.
grooming adjacent movie is at 15.1, dude. Flash only beat that by 0.2.
Yeah.
That's bad, man.
crazy.
Yeah, it's bad. So, the DC, whatever you think about the quality of their movies, I mean, we talked about the Flash last week. We don't need to repeat ourselves. Whatever you think about the quality of the movies, undeniably, they have this horrific situation at the box office.
Mm-hmm.
Shazam was also a box office blunder. And it looks like The Flash is going to be a box office blunder.
They're just not really doing the work. Like they're trying to have like a send off. This is what we talked about last week. They're trying to do like 8 different things with this movie. No one knows what the hell is going on. No one knows if this is in James Gunn's universe or Snyder's universe or neither. Like no one knows what this movie is, and the majority of people are like turned off by Ezra Miller,
Yeah.
however valid that may be. So I think we just got to go clean slate, man, because I don't think Blue Beetle's going to do very well either.
No, but it has a
No.
super low budget, so it'll probably profit.
Either way,
It'll do good in like South America and stuff like that.
that is surprising. It's disappointing. We didn't love the movie anyway, but damn. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the movie has a $220 million budget, which probably means it needs to make around $500 million to break
That's not
even,
happening. That's not happening.
and it is sitting at $200 million right now.
A Morbius drop off for the Flash.
It's crazy.
That's crazy.
It's pretty bad.
That's super
I
bad.
don't think they realized how much the James Gunn announcement was going to make people say these movies don't matter.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we were begging for that James Gunn announcement, which, don't get me wrong, I loved everything I heard about. But soon as I was like done reacting, I'm like, why the fuck am I going to see The Flash?
Yeah, well, I guess other
I'm not the
people
only
followed. Yeah, I heard on the streets people were talking about there's like an indie podcast that had its first episode that said it was kind of a shit movie and no one saw it.
That's true.
I heard about that.
We affect the box office, I guess.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that's
The
the whole
Flash.
plot effect.
All right.
Well, while we're talking DC, how about just real quick, we could talk about James Gunn and the Superman auditions and Supergirl as well.
Yes. So, one of the saving graces of The Flash was Sasha Calle as Supergirl, and apparently she's coming back. So,
Which is good. She did a good job.
which is good.
I'm down.
Yeah. We'll take that. How about Superman Legacy?
So this past week, in the midst of all this chaos, more of which we're going to get to in a second, there's more chaos. They had the screen tests for Superman Legacy, and apparently they were pretty good. They tested... James, you know who they tested? I know they tested, what's his name? He's Beast. He was in the menu.
Oh, yeah.
Nicholas Hoult.
He was Renfield.
Yeah.
Nicholas Hoult.
Nicholas Hoult.
There it is.
He tested him. There's a couple other actors they tested. Apparently, they're all fantastic. For James Gunn to say that he's blown away by people is pretty impressive, given who he's worked with. But I do want to broaden it. Do we trust what he says after him hyping up the Flash?
No, I don't.
James?
I trust James Gunn. I don't trust a statement that he was probably obligated to say.
Yeah, I don't. That has corporate stink on it.
Yeah, he was asked. Because James Gunn's very active on Twitter. If you're curious about what he has to ever say about a topic, I recommend you go follow his Twitter page, even if you don't like Twitter. He's very active on there. He responds to fans, and one fan asked him what is his favorite movie in 2023, and he said The Flash. Period.
Bought and paid for by big DC.
Yeah, so I trust him what he has to say with his own production, because that's definitely a creative thing as actor choice. But I do think we should.
Well, I mean, I'm not even sure I don't trust it. Reading the exact quote, this is the exact quote.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, "I'm blown away by some of these actors, among the best I've ever seen or worked with." I mean, I don't see why that couldn't be true.
Yeah, I buy that.
He probably is blown away. I mean, it's his movie.
Yeah, I trust him in his movie. But
yeah,
I'm going to keep a selective ear when he's doing DC brand talk.
For real, yeah, that's trust dashed a little bit, I think, because Flash.
Andy Muschietti gets Brave and the Bold, and then James Gunn is coming out and saying this is the best Batman movie ever. I will be I will wait until I see it.
Absolutely.
I mean, not to digress, because we already talked about the Flash for an entire episode.
Yeah.
But Andy did a good job with Batman in that movie.
He did. Fine enough.
He did fine, directing the action, but it was just, I don't know, man. If I get started talking about Batman, we're gonna be here for 2 hours.
So we're not going to.
That's
right.
Not.
Again, let's transition into San Diego Comic-Con. So,
wow.
Little known fact, we are going to San Diego Comic-Con. At least two of us are.
I'm not.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know if that's going to be worth it at this point. So, everyone is back at San Diego Comic-Con. It seems like it's a little dead, which is... Well, let me rephrase that. Hall H seems like it's dead. Marvel is officially out. HBO, I believe, is out.
Marvel being out is nuts.
Yeah.
It pulled
HBO
up
is
before.
apparently out. Universal's apparently out. Netflix already had their event, so why would they do it? And then WB is on the fence. And the reason is, at least for Marvel, and you can assume the rest of them, is the writer's strike. They simply don't have anything to show that has not already been shown. So that's not a good sign.
No.
I did not expect that.
Well, also looking at last year's Comic-Con for DC, their main announcement was all the Black Adam stuff, and then Black Adam ended up being a wet fart. So I don't know. I feel like it's a mix of what the hell are we even doing here, E3, and also there's definitely some writer strike in there.
Well, for Marvel, it's absolutely writer's strike.
Yeah.
Apparently, the plan is for them to show Deadpool and. But the plan is for them to show Deadpool and for all these other movies, and they're just not producing them right now. So they're having to halt production, which is a shame because we were in Hall H last year when they announced all this stuff, and even though we were critical of modern MCU, it was pretty cool. I gotta admit, it was pretty cool to be in Hall H when the new Avengers movies were announced, and when DC The Rock came out in Black Adam attire.
That's crazy.
Hope that DC will still go because one, of course, I want to watch, but two, now they have the stage to themselves, so maybe
could be big year.
Personally, I think this ties back to what we were talking about earlier, which is that James Gunn maybe should not have talked about the future for the DCU, maybe hinted at it, maybe just announced Superman or something, and waited to tell that to us at Comic-Con. And they could have actually had something to talk about.
The Flash would have made more money.
The thing is, James Gunn could show up and get up there and just show concept art of what he wants to do in DC. And I think people would be excited. He said he hasn't announced the full Chapter 1 plan. He could finish out the Chapter 1 announcements. I think James Gunn could be the guy who saves Hall H this year if he wanted to be, if he thought it was worth it. But he doesn't have to.
Well, another part of it is that, I guess another piece of news, and you're starting to see how interconnected all of this stuff is that WB is broke. Really bad. And this week, they're trying to sell some of their... James, you've probably heard about this.
I have.
They're trying to sell some of the property they have. So, like, music to their films, music to the Batman films.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
James, what's your take on that?
My take on that is we have seen some of these titans kind of collapse. Obviously, the big one was Fox.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think, obviously, all the regime changes at Warner Brothers are probably preemptive of trying to prevent a similar crash. I think David Zaslav seems like he was brought on for his business mind. He seems like he is looking at a lot of spending, and he is trying to chop fat as much as he can. Whether his chopping has been ethical or correct, or his choices have been good, or his judgment, that's a whole other discussion. But it just seems like he was the guy who was brought in to kind of butcher all the spending and save this company from being bought out by somebody.
Yeah.
I certainly hope that doesn't happen. Warner Brothers and Universal are kind of the two staples holding back a Disney monopoly.
Maybe Warner Brothers will get bought out by Universal.
They already got bought out by Discovery.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, that was the whole thing with Discovery. And if Discovery can't save Warner Brothers...
The merger.
I don't know.
Oh, you're right.
I mean, we'll see. I definitely have concerns. I think Warner Brothers will pull through. I think they have too much, like, sacred IP is the only way I know how to word it. They have just so much sacred stuff that I think they can get talent in there.
Well, I mean, they have
and
a
get
good
enough
year
of a
ahead
brain
of them.
trust going.
Outside of DC, they have Dune and Barbie, which are going to...
For real. Those bajillion dollars. Barbie is going to make a bajillion dollars, man.
Yeah, so
But I think
it's already all sold out.
I think what we're fully realizing here is that Hollywood is not going to be able to run on 80s nostalgia necromancy for much longer.
No, it already can't. I mean, people are so sick of that.
Yeah, enough with the cameos. Multiverse was just a new coat of paint for nostalgia crap.
Mm-hmm.
Multiverse needs to get out as soon as it came in. I used to love the multiverse.
Multiverse fatigue is real.
I love Elseworld stories, but what I'm done with is this dump out your plastic bin of action figures and hey, look, it's Ben Affleck as Daredevil. Let's throw him in Deadpool, which is also a rumor right now. Enough.
That is news. So stupid. It's so stupid.
Enough.
All right.
Well, I think we can probably finish off with just some mild Secret Invasion talk, which is not a show we are watching, for the record.
I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah,
I'm not watching it.
But there is some stuff to talk about. Namely, the most interesting thing is probably going to be the AI angle with the opening credits being made by AI. Now, there was... I think the showrunner or someone involved with the show came out and said, like, it's intentional. We wanted the opening credits to be done by AI to be thematically relevant to, like, the scrolls, you know, what is real, what is blah, blah, blah.
I'm sure they weren't complaining when they didn't have to pay someone.
Exactly. Yeah, it seems, I don't know, man, that it reeks of corporate, the whole thing.
It seems like it's trying to set a precedent and sneak it in.
Yeah.
And get a conversation going and see how okay people are with AI.
If there was ever a time to sneak in an AI generated anything, it would be in a story like Secret Invasion, which, mind you, the director says that he was told, not that he just didn't do it, but he was told not to read the actual Secret Invasion comic storyline before he started working on the show. So the MCU is at a stage now where they're adapting stuff and being told not to read the source material.
Do you remember, like, Kevin Feige used to, like, sneak X-Men comics onto, like, Fox sets? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, now he tells his staff not to read the comics.
Which is utterly terrifying for
Here's the
Daredevil
one-
Born Again.
Oh God.
Daredevil Born Again is already a sinking ship. But
Yeah.
to get back on Secret Invasion, the one thing I will say in defense of not reading the comic is the comic is super focused on, hey, it's Steve Rogers or Peter Parker. Are they a Skrull? And to read that, that's not the Secret Invasion story that we're getting. Unless Secret Invasion had taken up an entire phase of the movies, it'd be very difficult to directly adapt
I
it.
mean,
So I can understand it.
I've been here since the beginning, saying that the MCU structure is perfect for Secret Invasion and Secret Wars, with like the end credits and having like different scrolls in different movies. Would have made these movies actually feel connected, which they don't right now. And for them to just like shove the Skrull plotline into like some of Captain Marvel in a Disney Plus show, I'm gonna pass.
Yeah, it seems like a Civil War scenario where they're taking the name, and like Daredevil Born Again, they're taking the name of super popular comics and they're tagging it on there to get nerds and seats, and then they just do whatever they want with it in universe, which like fine, it's all in universe, but I don't know. I feel like if you're going to be a Marvel show called Secret Invasion, even if you're not one-to-one adapting the source material, you gotta read it, man. Like, I feel like that's pretty fair. But
it's fair.
It's sitting at a 66 on Rotten Tomatoes right now, 7.3 on IMDb, and I believe that's only episode 1. So I don't think it's like a Titanic stinker. I just have no interest in it at all, and I feel like I'm not alone in that. I feel it's not really performing as well as they hope.
Unless one of you guys in the comments desperately wants to hear our Secret Invasion opinions. I think we're gonna pass.
And that's the kind of thing where if any of you have any requests for stuff that you would want us to look into, even like older movies or games where you want to get our opinion on it, if you leave a comment, we'll absolutely look into it. So
absolutely,
I think I understand where he's coming from with the whole like it's meant to be thematically relevant. Like, you're a big Blade Runner fan.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if... And that movie's so handcrafted. It's arguably, like, the best made blockbuster in...
2049?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In, like, the 21st century.
Denny.
It's so well crafted and so beautiful. Can you imagine if they said, oh, well, we can use AI to generate it because it's thematically relevant to the replicants? How dumb that would be.
It's stupid. It's dumb.
My last thing to say on it is that I would have watched Secret Invasion because even from the Hall H trailer last year and what they've said, it looks like they wanted to get into the thematically rich stuff that Winter Soldier talked about, that intense political thriller feel. I'm strictly not going to watch it because of the AI opening. Yeah. The reason for that is I think AI is not inherently evil with entertainment if it's a tool. I think it is incredibly immoral and deserves no patience when it's a replacement for actual people who put soul in their work.
Especially
so I'm not watching it.
As someone like you, James, who works in the industry, I mean, it's got to be disheartening to see what would have been like a person hired to make art for this opening credit.
I mean, I can guarantee you, in Los Angeles, or the entire planet, there is someone that would have loved to be paid to make an intro for this show. Yep. And you could have done a better job. Because
it's also not very good.
Yeah. Like, take out the ethics, it looks ugly.
Yeah.
just go watch the Alex Ross Spider-Man 2 opening credits.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have to say.
Yeah, just don't waste your time with Secret Invasion. Go watch Superman Lois.
That's true.
I think that's all our news we can run through. Thanks for sticking around this long if you did. Like we said, leave comments, suggestions, criticism. We are open to whatever. Share with your friends. Slap a like. You know, we're in this for the long haul, so if you like it, we're going to be around. But unless any of my co-hosts have anything to add.
Yeah, so next week, Indiana Jones comes out. We're going to see how that's going to be. We're going to keep our reservations to ourselves because if you haven't heard, the movie does not seem to be very popular amongst critics and fans alike. But we're going to see how it is. And we're also going to talk about Lucasfilm as a whole, which...
It's a lot to talk about.
That's going to be an interesting conversation. It's definitely going to be a more focused episode. This week was kind of like a bunch of moving parts in this whole puzzle. But next week is specifically going to be about that and about that film. And yeah, that's what we're looking for. And we're going to release that the same time on Monday. The original plan was Saturdays, but we just have a lot of stuff going on right now. Literally anything you can think of. We have weddings, moving, funerals. So we are going to release that next Monday, but after that, we're going to release these episodes on Saturdays so that when we have movies that we're talking about, the information can help you make the decision to go see what's at the box office that week.
We're gonna try. So
we're gonna try. Right. We're going to.
Well.
That's it.
Thank you for watching. This has been Holy Plot. We will catch you next week. Take it easy.